All right, all right. Just like that, we are live. Thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, GameStop's quarter 4/full year earnings report. Got to dress up for the occasion, of course. Here we are. Got to look spiffy, right? Got to be ready for the occasion, right? Anything could happen today. There's so much speculation out there. So many if this, if that, but it's all going to be found out right now in the next 30 minutes or so. What's true, what's not. Did something big happen? Is it just another earnings report, right? Regardless, I think it's a big deal because it's a situation where we see where the business is at, for the full fiscal 2024 compared to 2023. And overall, just any annual report, it's a 10K filing, so you get a little bit more information in comparison to a 10Q filing, which is just on a quarterly basis. But yeah, we're rocking and rolling. I'm ready. I made myself a nice little old fashioned. Since I did take off work today, I'm like, you know what? Enjoy myself a little bit, but obviously don't want to get too crazy here. And yeah, just make sure we're settled in. And before we know it, the earnings report will be upon us. So let's see who's in the chat. I don't know how long I can keep these on because then honestly I can't even really see that well. But first, it's GameStop, baby, because I can. Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. Let's fucking go. Namac, thanks for being here. Hello, GME enthusiasts. Yes, sir. Do less. Thanks for being here. Caleb Presby and Rowan from Barstool had a child. Short Fridays. Thanks for being here. Can't hear you. Tetron's talent. Never mind. My bad. I can hear you. You're good. Do less. No worries. We're just settling in. But yeah, just gonna try and have some fun today, right? I mean, at the end of the day, nobody knows what's going to happen. Everyone's got all these different predictions. I found one other thing I'm about to show you guys in a minute, just as we kind of settle in here. But yeah, overall, I'm just excited to see where the company's at. Is this whole Bitcoin being acquired the real deal? Is that just speculation? Are they enacting on the investment policy in some other way? And obviously we got this whole Sultan dude. This is the thing of all things that I think is the least likely that we get something out of Sultan or some kind of partnership situation with whatever he does specifically in business. I'm not saying it's entirely impossible, but I just get the idea that this Sultan guy and that other Omar guy are honestly just grifting. I hope I'm wrong, right? But I've just seen it before, and so many people have come and gone from the saga and seen how there's a lot of people following Ryan Cohen and GameStop and just try and kind of leech on that, right? So I don't know what their intentions are. I guess you could say I'm assuming the worst, but we'll see. So my estimates for today, you can also see them scrolling along the bottom of the screen here, as well as analyst estimates and what Q4 was last year. I'm looking for 1.338 billion in revenue and about 67 million in operating income and then about 104 million in net income, which would equate to approximately 24 cents EPS. So we'll see if that transpires. Last time I was off on revenue, but I think I was actually just on the mark with EPS because it was about one cent. And if you look over here, I was talking about this a little bit yesterday for those of you that were here. When you look at the net income thus far through the first 3 quarters of 2024, you have negative 32 million, almost 15 million positive, and about 17 million positive. So when you add all these numbers together, it's roughly zero, meaning whatever they report on the bottom line for Q4 will pretty much be the bottom line for the full year, which if it's anything positive, it's pretty much going to be better than last year already. So I do think that's encouraging. But I think, when you look at the analyst estimates, you see around, what is it, like 35 million they have? You'll see it on the bottom here at some point, but it's around 35 million for net income, which equates to about 8 cents of EPS. And I just don't see that being the case because when I did the math, if you consider the amount of cash equivalents they have and just assuming they're earning the lower end of the federal funds rate or even a little bit below that, right? Let's say they're earning about 4% on money market funds and or high yield savings or short-term bonds, but just basically things that are yielding on their roughly 4.6 billion in cash coming into the quarter. That alone equates to about 50 million or so, right? Or I have it, if you do the difference over here, also I wrote a thread on this, feel free to check me out on X. Also, just remind myself, I got to tweet out the stream. But the difference of these two numbers is essentially the interest income, but also in my estimate, I did account for about 10 million of income tax. So we'll see if that's the case, but I'll pull that up real quick to show you guys what I'm talking about. And then I'll go ahead and tweet out the stream. And yeah, a little bit sick today. I don't know why. Of course, of all days, I wake up with like a sore throat. Just really did not sleep well at all, to be honest with you guys. But I took off work already, so I was like, I got to do this, right? If I take a whole day off. Also, just want a nice day to reset, the first half of the day was kind of just trying to take it easy, relax, get mentally ready and all that, have some coffee, of course, feeling bullish. But when we get to my estimates here, I'll show you how I got my interest income. See, last year for this same quarter, it was about 15.3 million. And then this year, I'm estimating about 48 million or so, give or take a few million, but I think it's in the ballpark. So when analysts are estimating about 35 million on the bottom line, that means they're essentially estimating, in my opinion at least, that it's a situation where their operating profit is negative. And, historically, over the past couple of years, their operating profit has been positive. So we'll see what happens, but let's have some fun today. Regardless of what happens, just try and make the most of it. It's always fun streaming with you guys and just hanging out, and yeah, even dress up for the occasion, of course. But again, I'm not in the business of giving financial advice. Please always do your own research, formulate your own opinions. I really, really think that's important. And overall, I think more with GameStop than any other stock, but in general, never just YOLO in the calls because you see one thing or another. Or if that's what you want to do and you're comfortable with that risk, I'm not here to stop you, but I'm just saying I'm not going about things in that way. I'm just acquiring shares, selling options a little bit. Although one thing I was seeing kind of floating around is that IV is incredibly low right now, which is pretty odd going into earnings. And, usually that's not the case in general, but especially with GameStop, it seems odd. And then I saw Joe, who is working for GameStop at this point. He did that interview with Ryan Cohen quite a while back. I'm sure you guys are semi-familiar with him at least. But throwback to when I bought Bitcoin at $93 during middle school study hall and never sold it. And he quote retweeted his post from 2013. So at this point, I keep seeing stuff like this. And if he works for GameStop, it's like, are you just toying with us? Or like, what's the point if they didn't buy like Bitcoin, right? I just don't quite get it. But again, we'll just see what GameStop says. I'm starting to think, but also, I don't know. I've been going back and forth on this all morning and just, even in the weeks leading up to earnings, like, did they ultimately buy Bitcoin? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to find out real soon, right? So, see, Short Fridays, thank you. Second glass of old fashioned. Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. What's up, Marence's Live? You just did a water break. Are you going to do one too? Because I can. I don't think so, just because I don't want to be wet the whole time and make a mess here, because I got a bunch of stuff on the floor. I really got to get this place cleaned up. But what I am going to do is crack a window because I'm sweating already. I don't know if it's just from the excitement, but give me 1 second here. We'll crack this one. Right nearby. I don't know why it's so warm in here. Usually it's not warm in this room at all. I guess I'm just very excited today, guys. What can I say? What can I say? But yeah, so I thought this was interesting. And, obviously there's just a lot of speculation right now. There's always speculation surrounding GameStop. But with Sultan and that other Omar guy just posting all about GameStop, Ryan Cohen, GameStop goes ahead and updates their investor relations page. We saw also during the quarter, well, actually, technically not during the quarter, because the quarter that's being reported is Q4, which is November, December, and January. So this was as of February, but we know at this point they are pursuing the sale of French Canadian operations. I think this may be a little bit of a surprise to some people, like, wow, they're just downsizing a ridiculous amount. But at the same time, when you look at their business goals and Ryan Cohen's like limited commentary, it's that they're very, very focused on profitability. To me, it seems abundantly clear that's what they care about more than anything else. And, we see that reflected in what's happening with the revenue and net income. So, the bears will say, oh, well, revenue's going down. Revenue can't go down forever. It's like, yes, that's true. But if revenue continues to go down, but net income continues to go up, I don't think it's the end of the world. And maybe that's not the most popular opinion, in the general world of investing, but in GameStop's case, I think it's very unique, and they're going to be all right. If they're turning a profit, they're going to consistently add to their balance sheet. And then what are they going to do with the cash, right? That's really the main question at this point. And that might not be answered today. So do prepare for that possibility that we might not know exactly what they're going to do with their cash, right? But we do know they have an investment policy in place, which I have right over here. And also we'll get to the business priorities in a second. So we know they have the investment policy in place, right, where they approved the investment policy subsequently, March 21st, pretty much about a year ago today. A board unanimously authorized revisions, so just slight changes, but essentially it means that Ryan Cohen and 2 independent members of the board, maybe Larry Chang, maybe Alan Adel, not exactly sure what 2 specific individuals, but basically at their discretion, they can invest the company's cash where they see fit. And then obviously, with knowing that's in place, and then seeing, and obviously at that time when that first came out, everyone's like, oh, GameStop's becoming a holding company. But they really haven't done anything yet, right? They've just been buying short-term securities in terms of like short-term T-bills, just money market account, things like that. But now they go ahead and update their investor relations page. And if you look at Berkshire Hathaway's, it pretty much looks just like this. So as someone has said, I apologize, I can't remember exactly who, but someone mentioned like they don't, telegraph things, but they do drop hints. I don't think the pictures are necessarily hints, right? Because we have Ryan Cohen over here. We saw him with Trump at one point, right? He's with Michael Saylor. So I think he's obviously been networking a lot. We saw him, the first picture I remember was the Carl Icahn one. Everyone's like, oh, it's this big thing's going to happen, right? And nothing happened with that, right? So I think you have to take the pictures with a grain of salt. But the fact that Ryan Cohen is following Bitcoin is certainly interesting. I think you can't deny that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that GameStop bought Bitcoin. Bitcoin Magazine and Bitcoin. And I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw that the Bitcoin Magazine CEO had posted something about GameStop reporting earnings today, or something that would lead you to think it's a hint at GameStop, right? But again, this is all just speculation until there's an official announcement that's from GameStop that says, hey, we have acquired Bitcoin, right? And even in the event they do acquire Bitcoin, I don't really see a scenario where they're doing the Michael Saylor strategy, MicroStrategy, whatever the company's called these days, is going about, in that they're going to issue debt and then just keep issuing debt at this like 0% convertible rate and just keep acquiring Bitcoin. I think GameStop style would be more so to just steadily add to it, or just make it a set percentage or general percentage, because obviously Bitcoin's price is going to move around of what's on the balance sheet in terms of assets. So we'll see how it unfolds. We're about 15 minutes away here. It's going down in the beginning of the day. Now we're kind of steadily climbing up, but we're basically sideways, very limited volatility. It's really going to come down to after hours. Although I will say, in terms of after hours, just keep in mind, whatever happens in after hours might have nothing to do with what happens tomorrow. To an extent, I will dictate the direction a little bit, don't get me wrong. But my point being, like, by the time the market opens tomorrow, things might look completely different than they do at like 5 p.m. today, for example. And those of you that are newer should know there's not going to be an earnings conference call. I would be very surprised if there was. There hasn't been in quite a while. And GameStop's made it clear they don't want to telegraph their plans. I understand, not everyone totally agrees with that. And it's one of those that just kind of is what it is. But they've made it clear, like, they're not going to telegraph their plans. They're simply just going to say, hey, just watch what we do. But when you look at S&P 500 today, right, so pretty much on the general same trajectory as GameStop, roughly, but basically GameStop's not moving in any dramatic way. Neither is the S&P 500 today, right? But as the S&P's climbed a little bit in the afternoon here, looks like GME is as well. And then when you look at the business priorities, it's the last thing I want to touch on. So, establish omnichannel retail excellence. We aim to be the leading destination for games and entertainment products through our stores and e-commerce platforms. And I wonder if in the business priority section of this report that we're about to get, they mention anything about PSA, or like integrating the PSA experience or the card experience, something of that nature within the commentary here. Not necessarily, but maybe something small to look for. Achieve profitability. And this was from the Q3 earnings report, right? So the last one we got. During fiscal 2023, we continue to optimize our cost structure to align with our current and anticipated future needs. We will continue to focus on cost containment, including closing underperforming stores as we look to operate with increased efficiency. So, when you see stuff like that, things like the Canadian and French side of business closing down is not totally out there, out of left field, like, oh, how did this happen, right? They've pretty much put it in here without saying it that, hey, if it's underperforming and we can't do business in a way that's adding to our bottom line, then we don't want to bother, right? And even if that means continuing to trim revenue for the time being. Leverage brand equity to support growth. GameStop has many strengths and assets, including household brand recognition and significant store network. So I guess this kind of falls under the category of PSA, or I should say PSA kind of falls under this category to an extent, because people like myself who are newer collectors are going to GameStop now, getting cards graded, buying cards. So I went into GameStop, right? I'm the perfect example of like a newbie collector, because found my own old Pokemon cards, some old hockey cards, football cards, stuff like that. I'm like, all right, let me get some graded. Let me test this process out, right? So I go there, I get them graded. I'll show you guys what I graded really quick. Whoop. Go to the big screen. So I got these Pokemon graded, right? Steelix and Ivysaur. You know, pretty poor grades, but these are cards I literally just traded for with some random kid in summer camp, like literally a decade ago. So I don't even remember exactly, probably more than that actually. I was really young, but I don't even remember like why I traded for them, whatever. I just saw them like, oh, these look like maybe they'll have some value one day, or just seem like cool cards to grade, right? Like this Steelix one, for example, if it somehow was PSA 10, but if you look at the back, obviously it wasn't going to be. It's like all scratched up and kind of damaged. So it came back at 3, but if it was a 10, this thing is worth like $800 or something like that. So that would have been dope, but obviously I wasn't expecting a 10. But what I did get a 10 on was this Jesper Bratt card. Probably my favorite player right now. I'm a big Devils fan side, and he's just been cooking this year. He's been putting the team on his back with Jack Hughes out, but it's signed too, and it says like authenticated, so that's cool, right? So actually, I bought this on eBay a while back, and I was, hey, you know what? Let me try and get this graded. Let me see how that kind of works out. And then I go in the store, and then sure enough, what do? I buy some more hockey cards, right? So I'm the perfect example, I would say, of a newbie collector. You know, I'm not overly into it, but just as someone that's starting out, GameStop's made the process easy for me, which I appreciate, because I probably would not have ever got cards graded had GameStop not set up this partnership. And then obviously we got the data over here pretty recently. They're about to hit 1 million cards, and that's over about an approximate 5-month period. And they're still relatively new to the grading game, so I think this could grow a little bit. At what rate, I'm not sure. I also wrote a thread on this on X if you guys are curious. I'll pull it up here. It's a separate one. It's this one right here. It's actually pinned right now. So I was kind of mathing out what it might look like going forwards, and this was from a little while back, but this is a great interview you guys should check out. It's by Neo Cards and Comics. He's a pretty big time collector. He has a YouTube channel where he talks about collecting, and he actually had Nat Turner on, because Nat Turner, board member of GameStop, also CEO of Collectors, which is the parent company of PSA. And he had him on, and then at this point in the interview, they were talking about the new partnership with GameStop, and Neo was basically saying, oh, you know, it's actually, like, it's kind of went on. I'm like, this kind of works, right? It's kind of getting new people involved, but people who are following me or hardcore collectors probably aren't going through GameStop, but people that are just getting started and want to simplify the process, they're probably going to GameStop, right? And then he said, like, yeah, I bet most of the cards are TCG, trading card games, such as like Pokemon, although I was the 10% because I got the hockey one graded. But basically Nat was like, yep, about 90% TCG. So that's how I got this estimate. And then I kind of broke it down, and I used the numbers going forwards. I know they just recently raised their prices, which I referenced here. And that was really as a result of PSA themselves raising prices. So with that being the case, you know, I figured let me go more so forward looking, because, you know, you could go backwards, but I kind of want to look forward. So this is just assuming the same rate of increase. So if you're assuming the same rate of increase, or I'm sorry, the same rate of cards being graded, not even accounting for an increase in rate, then GameStop's looking about 3.8 million in revenue. You know, what they're earning on the bottom line, I was estimating about 40 to 45%. Some people are saying that's high, but I don't think it's that ridiculous. You know, maybe it's a little bit lower than that, because they have Nat Turner on the board. They're probably doing like a huge amount of volume, or we know thus far they've done a pretty significant amount of volume, but I don't know of anyone else out there that's facilitating card grading by like taking them in and sending them in for you and just providing such massive volume to PSA. So I would imagine they have a pretty favorable discount. You know, of course, there was some super GME bear in the comments. It's like, definitely GameStop only makes 10% because PSA, if GameStop charges $18.99 and then PSA is charging like $20.99, GameStop's only keeping 10%. I'm like, you really don't think they get any kind of discount at all? I find that hard to believe. And then even beyond that, this is bringing more people like myself into the store. That's how I wound up buying other cards. And just in general, you know, building the brand name, more foot traffic. You might have more pro memberships, right? Because if you're a GameStop pro member, you see right here, you get free shipping for sending them in. So I am a pro member, so I didn't have to pay shipping. So that was nice. And yeah, it's just these little things that they're doing. And I'm not saying, you know, oh, this is it. This is all they need to do. I think there's still a lot more room for improvement and some more that they can do. And I'm hoping we see something today, but at the same time, I'm tempering my expectations, and I understand that we might not see much today, and that's all right. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I got net income at 130 million income. What's your estimate, Summer? Hopefully margins will be closer to 28%. Yeah, Summer, I would love to see Gross margins stay above 30% going forwards. That might be tough, but as they move more towards collectibles and trading cards, it's, I would say, possible, but we'll have to see. And my estimate for net income is about 104 million. Hey, Tetron, today's the day we see GME massive short position on Bitcoin. Yes, negative and yeah, maybe today's the day. Maybe today's the day, right? We're going to find out real soon. Hi from the UK. When does the fun start? UK Dave, thanks for being here. Probably about 7 minutes or so. Is the time on my computer accurate? Yes, it is. So we're looking at about 7 minutes or so. What's good, Noah? Took off work? Yes, sir. Ryan, honestly, unfortunately, not feeling too well. My throat's kind of bothering me, so I'm going to go the longest I can today. But, a little whiskey, little old fashioned to try and, just kill whatever germs in the throat, you know what I mean? But yeah, so it's kind of unfortunate. I was just expecting to get a lot done today. I was like, all right, let me just rest, take it easy, and then I'll just stream as long as I can later. But also, I just kind of wanted a day off work. I haven't took off in a while, so here we are. See, not expecting much in terms of an earnings call or guidance, but I think we see big price action. Ryan, I think so too. I think if they do, in fact, report 90, 100, 110 million of net income, I do think we'll see positive price action after hours. But at the same time, you just don't know with this company, right? This stock that is GameStop, you just don't know. It's always like whenever you think it's going to be one thing, it's something else, right? So we'll have to see. But I said push that because everyone's so bullish with GV and Bitcoin with zero Evan, so I figured I'd do the same. Nothing but love, man. You're good, bro. You're totally good. No worries at all. And listen, I think debate is good. We always have to be, open to just different ideas. And it is funny that with GameStop, I think in particular, people see like one thing and they're like the picture of Michael Saylor. And they're like, oh my gosh, GameStop definitely bought Bitcoin. And then Sultan posts a picture with him. Everyone's like, oh, there's a partnership going on in Qatar. And it's like, let's hold our horses, right? Let's just take it easy and see how it plays out. But Tetron, so glad I caught you live. Pseudo, thanks for being here. Happy to have you. So yeah, we're just rocking and rolling. And before we know it's going to be earnings. I think I have to take these off though. I don't know. The future's so bright though, so it's going to be kind of hard to see the screen. But at the same time, it's hard to see the screen with sunglasses. So compose ourselves though as we head in here. We're getting real close. I don't know why it's so warm in this room right now. We got to crack this window more. But yeah, obviously dressed up for the occasion, rocking and rolling, absolutely vibing. But yeah, no matter what happens, I think if you're a long-term investor, just try and keep your composure. And also in general with these reports, I feel like a lot of times, people have such harsh initial reactions and then you digest it a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, this is maybe not what it seemed like, right? So we'll put the sunglasses on, I would say at about 4 o'clock because the future might be bright. We might have to shield our eyes here, but for now, we'll keep them off. So we got Ryan Cohen following Bitcoin and Bitcoin Magazine. That could just mean he's personally buying Bitcoin though, right? It's like we just don't know. That's the whole thing, right? We just don't know. But if you guys don't already, sauce me a follow on X. I'm trying to write more. Honestly, been really just enjoying writing about GameStop and thinking about writing about some other things, some other just general finance stuff, maybe some other like business side. I was thinking also I want to start getting into because I'm really into hockey and football, like mixing in like the business side of sports. I think that might be an interesting avenue I might go down. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. But yeah, we're getting really, really close now. We're going to refresh this page like a madman. Really, really simplified investor relations page at this point. We got the news releases, so we'll keep this open. And also we got the actual specific filing with the SEC website up here. And we're just going to have to see what takes place, right? Nobody truly knows. Everyone's speculating, but nobody knows until the numbers are out, right? And one more time here. My estimate is about 1.338 billion in revenue, about 67 million of operating income, and about 104 million of net income, which equates to about 24 cents EPS. I would think if we see this, the stock will have pretty positive price action, but at the same time, again, you just don't know with GameStop, right? And that's why I don't play short-term positions or do call options. Like I'm not going to buy calls because you just don't know. You just don't know with this thing. But I saw that implied volatility is pretty low right now, which I do think is pretty surprising, considering that GameStop usually moves a lot after earnings. I'm not sure what the expected the expected move after earnings is for GameStop. Previously it's been like 10, 12, 15%, kind of depending on the report. And how you get that number, I'm not sure the specific math, but it basically has to do with the way the options are trading. However, I will say, historically, a lot of times if there's been an expected move of like 15% one way or another, a lot of times the stock just moves like 6 or 7, maybe 8%, right? So a lot of times option buyers get burned. So that's why, I've kind of been dabbling in. I was talking about this a little bit last night. I've been dabbling in selling options because I feel like, just generally speaking, more options than not expire worthless. So I would rather be on that side of the trade if I'm going to trade at all. But when I'm selling options, that has nothing to do with my long-term position. With my GameStop shares, my long-term GameStop shares, I never want to be in a position where I'm selling calls. Only if it's a situation where I'm selling puts and I get exercised. It's unfortunate. That's a specific portfolio, and I'll go ahead and turn around and sell a call, which I totally accept. I'm missing some upside if the stock pops. But for that specific account, I'm keeping it completely separate from my long-term positions. And in doing that, that's just a little bit of income I'm trying to build up. And again, that's just something I'm dabbling in, and I'm doing it with an amount I feel comfortable with. So really just with investing in general, I really urge you to know thyself, right? Like know your own risk tolerance. I do think, you need to take risks sometimes to have more success than just a simple like buying the S&P, but it's really about knowing yourself. Like if you can't stomach the risk, it's not worth it. If you can stomach options, go right ahead and do it, right? But just make sure you do your research and due diligence going into that. So yeah, here we are. We're just about to get the numbers very, very soon. It could be any minute now. Let's see. Hopeful for some swag from Cohen. Windfall, we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see. Thanks for being here. Hopefully have well over 100 million in profit. I'm a little more bullish than you this time. Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I'm hoping we see over 100 million as well. I would say even if we saw like 80 million plus, I would be pretty satisfied. But we'll see, right? We'll see. And looking at last time, if the margins are just in the same place as they are last year for the same quarter, I think we'll definitely see that, right? So this same quarter last year, the operating margin was about 3.1%, and then the net margin was about 3.5%. And they're definitely going to have a lot more interest income this year. And also one other quick thing, because the number's going to come out like any minute now, is the capital they raised, right? Like I want to summarize this. A lot of people are, oh, they have to use the cash. They have to use the cash, right? However, you do want to keep in mind they did only have $1 billion. A billion is still a large number, but they gained $3.4 billion pretty much over the summer in 2024. From the span of May to September, they raised $3.4 billion. So yeah, everyone's like, oh, they haven't used that cash yet. Which I'm not saying I don't want them to use it, but at the same time, it hasn't even been a full year, right, since the first share issuance. When I say first, I mean first of 2024, because obviously they did the one back in 2021 when they were turning things around initially. So don't be totally surprised if they don't use the cash this report. But just like that, it is 4 o'clock. Let's refresh the page here. Could reload and it might not be saved, but let's find out, right? Let's see if there's any initial earnings action after hours. I'm jittery right now, guys. I'm excited. Let's take a sip and relax. I can feel the nerves in the room. Yes, sir, Ryan. Yes, sir. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's like this journey that is GameStop. What a journey it is, right? It's so remarkable. It's so many ups and downs and people coming and going in the story, different people talking about it, different people having ideas about what they should do, what they should not do, the harsh critics, the people that absolutely love it, the bulls, the bears, bring them all here. You're all welcome to hang out with me and watch this earnings report today. So let's see. Initial move here. Okay, this is pretty much nothing. Let's just keep refreshing now until we get the numbers. Oh, we got to put, you know what? We need to put sunglasses on. The future might be bright. So we got to get these on just in case, right? We got to get these on just in case. This is definitely not the best old-fashioned I made. Kind of not the best flavor, but that's all right. We're rocking and rolling. All right, so initial drop. But also, no matter what the numbers are, just keep in mind that the earnings reaction might not have anything to do with, the price action might not necessarily correlate to what the numbers are. But of course, everyone's going to have their own opinion in terms of whether the numbers are good or bad. So we'll have to see that. We had a quick drop and then a quick bounce back. So this tends to happen with stocks, right as they're about to report, quick bounce, bounce, bounce. So let's see until we get some numbers here. We'll refresh the newsroom. We'll refresh the SEC page. Should be any minute now. Let me know if I'm missing it, guys, in the chat. Every time I say chat, though, I feel so cringe. Like, hey, chat, let me know. Right? It's so funny how that's a thing. But okay, kind of stagnating right now, right? We had this candle, then it came right back. Keep refreshing. Nothing yet. I think it's usually around like 4:05 or so. But let me know. Make sure. Whoop, got a stupid ad over here. Buy a share, block a bear. Life is good. Brett, thanks for being here. Over under 550 stores closing. Negative man, yeah. I'm going to say under, but I don't know. XY going down for now. Sarah G, been here for years. Been here to the end. Hey, Sarah, thanks for being here. Me too. Put on a welding helmet. Nice. News release is usually first. 10Ks and like 20 minutes later. Thank you, Banana. Thank you very much. Yes, I think that is correct if I remember from last time. So, all right, nothing yet. Kind of stagnant. Should be any minute now. And then also, I'll be updating these numbers over here. I'll be posting these charts later today or early tomorrow. The revenue, SG&A, and margins over time. And then next year I'll have to update them. Or when I say next year, I mean the next report. We are already technically in the next year, right? Q1 is actually already more than halfway because Q1 is February, March, April, and we're already almost at the end of March, which is crazy how time's flying. So nothing quite yet. The suspense is killing me. Any minute now. Let's see. Someone text me it. Say, hey, here's the numbers. But oh man, guys, what a journey this is. What a journey that GameStop is. Oh, what do we have here? A quick up, a quick down, and a little bit up. Let's see. Do we have anything? Someone has something. Let me know if I'm missing it, guys. Let me know if I'm missing it. The future's so bright. That's why I have the sunglasses on. Let's see. What do we have? Okay, and right back down. What do we have? We'll just keep refreshing until we get it. Go back to home, just news release. Oh, okay. Are you guys ready? The numbers are here. Net sales are $1.283 billion for the fourth quarter compared to $1.794. So my estimate was off, but was pretty expected. Revenue was going to fall. Net income was $131.3 million for the fourth quarter compared to $63.1 million for the prior year's fourth quarter. So absolutely crushed on net income. Analysts were estimating $35 million, so almost a whole $100 million more. Adjusted EBITDA, $96.5 million. Let's zoom in here a little bit, get it nice and close up. EBITDA of $88 million for the prior year's fourth quarter. Cash equivalents, and marketable securities of $4.775 billion. Okay, so it doesn't look like they used the cash at this point in time. Completely divested from Italy and the wind down of store operations in Germany. So net sales for the full year were about $3.8 billion versus $5.2 the year before. SG&A was about $1.13 billion versus $1.32 billion for the year before. Net income, of $131.3 million for 2024 compared to $6.7 million. So obviously a significant jump here. Kind of like we talked about as we were heading into the numbers here, that whatever they reported for Q4 on net income would be the net income for the year. All right, let's scroll down here. Let's see what we got. So net sales about 1.2 billion, or closer to 1.3, I should say. Cost sales went down a lot. So gross profit did go down a little bit. Not the most encouraging, I will admit that. But SG&A did significantly decrease year over year, so that is definitely nice to see. Nice operating profit, about $79.8 million. Interest income of about $54.8 million. And that gives us the 134.6 earnings before taxes, and then taxes about 3.3. So I'll go through the whole thing here, and then we'll compare it to my numbers. Or you know what? I got my numbers right here. We might as well compare it real quick, right? So I was estimating about 1.338 billion of revenue, and what they came in with was a little bit lower, but I was estimating about 67 million of operating income. But we see here their operating income was 79.8, so it beat my expectation there. But then my interest income, I was estimating about 49 million, so they had a little bit more than expected. And then I was estimating about 10 million of income tax, but they came in with only about 3.3. And here we are with 131.3 million on the bottom line, which is 29 cents of EPS. Let's go ahead and check the stock price here. We're climbing, right? Nothing too crazy, but we do see a nice little move up. As I'm just formulating my thoughts here in real time, I'm thinking, the net income was a nice surprise to the market. However, I feel like the general sentiment, right? When I say general sentiment, I don't just mean people closely following GameStop. I mean people just in the market as a whole are thinking, oh, they're going to use that cash for an acquisition and or acquiring Bitcoin and or other stocks. And oh my gosh, they did do that, right? But guess what? They just have more cash ready to use for when they're ready to deploy it. And now they are just more profitable than ever, and we're moving up here. We're at about 27.5, and we'll see how it continues to move, right? But just keep in mind, analysts were estimating 8 cents. All two analysts, by the way, about 8 cents for GameStop. But then they came in at 29 cents a share. So they absolutely crushed on that. But of course, what are the headlines going to say tomorrow? GameStop badly misses on revenue. Another down year on the top line. But and then they'll mention in tiny print at the end, but they had significant net income growth. And they'll act like that's nothing, right? And that's fine. I think anyone that's long on the stock is kind of used to it at this point. So gross profit did improve significantly year over year. And keep in mind, what we're looking at right now is Q4 last year versus Q4 this year. SG&A as a percentage went up a little bit, but the overall number did go down. So interest income was a larger portion, but their operating margin was 6.2%. That is very encouraging. They basically doubled their operating margin from last year. And as we go down here, we're going to get into the full year numbers. And then their net margin, 10.2%, guys. 10.2% versus 3.5%. When you're looking at that in percentages, that's a massive increase. And I really think at this point, they put themselves in a spot where they're going to be profitable going forwards for not just a full year, but quarter after quarter. Obviously, we'll have to see if that's the case, but I quote DFV here. Cheers, everybody. Here we are. 131.3 million of net income, and now we're looking at the full year EPS of 33 cents. And when we go down here, let's look at the full year margins. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. So gross margin was 29.1%. You can see this is for 52 weeks ended. So margins are moving up. Cost of sales as a percentage went down. So gross margin of 29.1% compared to 24.5% last year. SG&A as a percentage did go up a little bit. So their operating margin is still technically at a loss, right? But they had significantly more interest income and overall a net margin of 3.4% versus 0.1%. But when you look at this specific quarter, you can see much more significant of a net margin increase. Then move down to the balance sheet here. So now they got 4.75 billion in cash, 18 million in marketable securities. You basically add those together. So you could say roughly 4.8 billion in cash. Receivables went down a little bit, not that big a deal. Less inventory, that's the trend we've been seeing, as they just continue to have less stores and just continue to downsize. I think inventory on the balance sheet will continue to decline. And something someone pointed out to me is that in getting more involved with PSA cards and selling PSA cards and doing the grading service, inventory will go down, but inventory will hold its value better, right? Because when you look at a card over time, its value is going to hold up much better than a video game that comes out. That's obviously excluding like vintage video games, but when you're looking at something like NHL 25 or Madden 25 and then NHL 26 or Madden 26 comes out, all of a sudden you have to significantly mark that down and then sell it for a loss, right? And you might get stuck with it for a long time. So operating lease right of use assets. So this is obviously going down because they have less and less stores. And deferred income taxes is about the same. Non-current about the same. But you can see their total assets significantly increased. A large portion of that was, though, because they issued the shares earlier this year. But something I want to quickly touch on, let's check this again. All right, we're about 27 right now. If you told anyone back here, right, in April 2024, hey, flash forward to later in 2024 or 2025, right? Flash forward a year, right? Just to keep it simple, right? Say it's March 25th, 2024, 1 year ago today. And you said, hey, at that point, right, the price is about $12. You said, hey, in 1 year from now, GameStop's cash pile is going to go from about 1 billion to 4.8 billion. And in that happening, they're also going to issue a bunch of shares. You would have said, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And by the way, the share price will be higher. If you told anyone at that point in time, would have been like, you're crazy, there's no way that's happened, right? But yet, here we are. People say, oh, well, they sold the shares, to individual investors. Yeah, some of them, but you don't think any of that was institutions? I find that very, very hard to believe, especially when they sold 75 million shares in a 3-day span. Yes, it was at a period of time where Roaring Kitty was posting, and that, that was in this era over here. But still, that's such a significant amount of shares. At least part of that had to be institutions. But moving down here, you see just less accounts payable, so that's good, just less money they're going to owe. Less secured liabilities, current portion of operating lease liabilities, again, going lower because of less stores. Current portion of long-term debt excuse me, just a really small loan they have with the French government associated with the pandemic response that they've just been slowly paying. And by the way, that's a 1% interest loan. So I don't care how long they take to pay that off because it's such a minuscule amount. And also, they're earning about 3.5, 4% in interest income on their cash equivalents right now. So take their time paying that off, right? And then they have 6.6 left of it, the full amount of long-term debt. And then moving down here, you see the net income. So now this is the cash flow statement. Let's go through this here. So stock-based compensation, a little bit less than last year. Let's go down a little more. Merchandise inventories, spending a little bit less. Accrued payable and accrued liabilities, again, a little bit less. So net cash flows used in operating activities, positive. Although this is Q4, let's keep that in mind. We'll go to the full year. Net amount in investing, 17.4. So, they purchased marketable securities and then some matured. Just keep in mind, though, marketable securities are from 3 to 12 months in terms of like when they mature. Whereas like when it's cash equivalent, it's less than 3 months, right? So it's within the quarter. So if they're buying a bond that expires in 1 month, right? Or I'm sorry, pays in full in 1 month, then that shows up under marketable securities. So proceeds from sale of a business unit. So this was either Germany and or Italy. So just a small little increase there. And then other, not sure what that is. That might be in the 10K later to the 3.2 million. And the 10K, is much more detailed for those of you that are maybe newer to the game investing or not following reports as much or whatever the case, right? This is the news report with the overview of the numbers, but the 10K is really like the meat, potatoes, vegetables, all of it, right? The dessert, the coffee, it's all of it in there, right? Especially a 10K because it's for the full year, whereas a 10Q is just for the quarter. So we're also going to see the sales mix by segment. And overall, net and financing activities, not much here going on, right? Just repaying the French loans. But you can see cash equivalents at the beginning of the period was about 4.6, and now it's getting closer to 4.8, right? So the change, the free cash flow was 173.2 million. So now let's look at the full year, right? And obviously we talked about the net income already. So I want to go down and see an operating activity. So, this year they have operating cash flow that is positive, and it's a significant change from last year. This is a $350 million swing. And then you go down further, you see net amount in investing activities. So obviously, this is from the marketable securities earning, and then they've bought them, let them mature. And then moving on here, you want to look at the full amount. You can see their cash went from 938 million to 4.789 billion. Again, most of that was from raising capital through share issuances. However, they also have positive free cash flow. They're going to earn a net profit going forwards. I have a hard time believing that won't be the case going forwards. And see, now we have the sales mix. So we see collectible went up year over year. And I think that really has a lot to do with trading cards, right? Which we talked about a little bit before. And I think we'll continue to see this category grow. And also it's worth mentioning that generally speaking, the collectibles market has higher margins than software or hardware. And I think we'll see them continue to shift towards that. And then if you see for the full year, it's the same case. Well, no, not exactly. They are down a little bit on collectibles year over year, but as a percentage of revenue, it did go up. And just, full disclosure, guys, I'm just reading all these numbers for the first time, just like the rest of you out there. So I do apologize if I'm going really fast, make a mistake, maybe slightly misspeak it anyway. And, that's why you always want to do your own research and analysis of your own, right? But I appreciate you hanging out here very much so. And here we are. About 26.86 a share right now, but here we are, and no groundbreaking news, right? I don't see anything else in the report. Like if we look at the summary, let's go all the way down here. So we see for the full year they earned 163.4 million of interest income compared to 49.5 last year. This number should be about the same, if not more, for the next year ahead. Transformation costs, so severance, stock-based compensations, letting people go, getting out of a certain business or whatever the case. But you can see free cash flow was positive for this quarter as well as for this year, right? So that is really, really encouraging that their free cash flow is positive. I'm very, very happy to see that. I will not lie about that. But yeah, guys, so many different thoughts at the same time. Got this old-fashioned, got me rocking and rolling right now, and here we are, right? So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go through the chat in a few minutes here. Oh my gosh, there's no acquisition. Is that what you guys are thinking? Or you're like, hey, this is great. significant increase in net income, positive free cash flow for the full year and quarter. Market overall seems to like it, right? Let's see what Yahoo Finance says in terms of like the exact percentage. Wow, you're gonna tell me GameStop's not trending right now? Really? I find that hard to believe. But gotta mix in some water. So about up 5% right now, not too much, but that's all right. Like I said before, there's a lot of time between now and the market open tomorrow, so we'll see what the market does. It could climb. For all we know, it could go negative, right? You just don't know with the stock market in terms of short-term reactions. But look at this. EPS of 30 cents beating expectations by 275%. All two analysts estimated 8 cents of EPS, right? And again, my estimates are on the bottom here, so I'm not going to say, oh, spot on, I knew it all. But I just knew. I was like, 35 million of net income? Come on, that's just silly. There's just no way with the moves they've been making that was going to be the case. So I don't, maybe I should be an analyst, right? Maybe I should study and go into the business of giving financial advice if these people are saying that, right? With like little to no knowledge. But GameStop earnings are coming as crypto talk swirls, right? So it's almost like the media is already trying to get ahead of it, right? And can already see the articles tomorrow. GameStop still isn't used their cash. Misses on revenue again. Revenue continues to dwindle down, and they'll put in the tiniest text, net income has significantly increased and free cash flow is positive. If they even mention it at all, right? No one truly knows. No one knows with these articles, right? And yeah, that's why I like covering this stock to the best of my ability, because I feel like there's not a lot of people out there, I'm not saying I'm the only one, that are truly covering what's actually going on. And I'm always trying to keep it real. I'm never trying to be, too hypey, because at this point, guys, I'm honestly numb to any hype dates or anything like that, because we've just seen so many days come and go, oh, this is the day of this is the day of that, right? Oh, expect this. And none of it really comes to fruition, right? So I just focus on the company, focus on the numbers, and let it ride. And see, the sun is shining on me. It's a good day. We're vibing right now. But let's see. Look at the news release. Look at it. My bad, do less. Thank you. Oh, shoot. Doesn't mean we'll buy it. Hope Ryan Cohen accumulates in a crash, not before. Look at the latest news, Tetron. Sorry for the delay. Announces update to investment policy to add Bitcoin as a treasury reserve. Oh, okay. Look at that. 100 people shouting at the screen. Tetron, look at the news release. I'm sorry. It's because I took the shades off. I was going too fast. I was too locked in. How did I miss that, guys? How did I miss that? My apologies, but let's circle back here. Where does it say that? How did I miss that? Is it another news release? Ah, okay. Let's see. Would you look at that? So they're going to buy Bitcoin, but not right now. Hold on. Let's read this. Sorry, guys. My apologies. You're literally putting in the chat, and I was completely ignoring it. I was just so fired up trying to go through it all real quick. So including the impact of such investments on companies' financial results, the company's investment policy permits investments in certain cryptocurrency assets, including Bitcoin and US dollar denominated stablecoins. Interesting. And if, that's a very key word, the company, acquires Bitcoin or US dollar denominated stablecoins, the company will be exposed to certain risks associated with Bitcoin or stablecoins, respectively, and the company's ability to maintain effective internal control over financial reporting. Additional factors that could cause results to differ materially from those reflected or described in the forward-looking statements can be found in GameStop's most recent annual 10-K. So, do we have that yet? Probably not. Oh, okay. Let's open that. So we're going to get into that next. So let's see. Okay, reset. So consists of apparel, toys, trading cards, gadgets, and other retail products for pop culture and technology enthusiasts. Collectibles also include our digital asset wallet and NFT marketplace activities in fiscal 23. However, both activities were wound down in the fourth quarter of 2023. Okay, trading program, we knew about that. So obviously they have a lot less stores, and they're going to wind down Canada and France, right? So soon it's literally just going to be these stores for their international exposure, their exposure in Austria and New Zealand. And domestic stores is now down to 2,325. Another thing that will be all over the news, right? Oh, GameStop's closing more stores. Oh my gosh, everything's all doom and gloom, right? Okay, hit the chat, and then we're going to go through the investment policy here. Again, apologies for going slow there. Screaming as loud as I can. Even sent a message on Twitter. Oh my gosh, this is going to be funny when he sees it. Yes, my apologies. And I just realized the all chat wasn't on. I try and get to all the chats, so I apologize if I missed you before. Thank you guys. Thank you for putting that in. I appreciate it. And appreciate you guys screaming it. Reload it. Here we are, guys. How much Bitcoin do they currently own, if any? Short Fridays, it doesn't look like they own anything yet, right? And the big thing is that they said if, and that I didn't see it on their balance sheet when I was going through. So there's a news release, refresh the page. Anything about shorting the Bitcoin in the filing? AK drop, but nothing important. Gotcha. See, guys, the sun is on me because the future is just so bright right now, right? The future's so bright that it's just shining through. I had to keep the shades on, right? But wow, okay. So much to digest here. Hold on one sec, too. I said to myself, I was like, I've had this video in the vault. I'm going to post it if GameStop has positive earnings, or positive earnings reaction, I should say. So you guys could check that out after this if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and post it really quick. So it's just like a goofy, fun video I made. Take what you want of it, but you can go check it out after the stream if you want. GameStop alien takeover. This is just having fun with AI, and I was like, I'm just going to sit on this video, then post it when I want it. And then I'm like, you know what am I waiting to post this for? So GameStop reports. Let's put GameStop alien takeover. GameStop reports. Get the actual numbers in here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Just give me a moment. We'll post this and we'll get back at it here. Where are we? Okay. So 131.3 million of net income, or let's put slash, how much was it of EPS? Where were we? Give me the EPS. 29 cents a share. All right. Boom. Did I spell that right? Hopefully I did. Alien takeover. Okay. Boom. But you guys can enjoy that later. We'll get back into it here. So yeah, obviously it's very encouraging. I think number one, the net profitability increasing significantly and the free cash flow being positive are very, very encouraging signs. And now, they can choose when they want to make the investment in Bitcoin and acquire Bitcoin. I think they'll do it very strategically. They won't just rush to do it, right? And if you look at the balance sheet, right, we don't see anything yet there that shows that they would have Bitcoin, right? And I don't know if it's going to come up as Bitcoin. I'd have to look at like MicroStrategies, for example. But see current assets. So I think it would be a long-term asset, but other non-current assets, I don't think that's it, right? Because they already had other non-current assets last year. So at this point in time, it does not appear that they have any Bitcoin on the balance sheet. However, it is worth noting that this is as of February 1st, 2025. So who's to say they didn't buy Bitcoin at some point between February 1st and right now? I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I'm just saying that's not impossible. And you know what? I think I need to close these blinds. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hopefully the audio didn't cut out. We got to close these. It's getting too much brightness. But let's see. Did I lose audio here? No, we're good. We're good. Okay, that did not make it better at all. We got to put on the shades. The future's too bright. The future's too bright, right? Probably should open back up because now this is even worse. But oh my gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm such a mess today. Like I said, I am a little bit under the weather, and I just did not sleep well yesterday at all. So I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place, but I appreciate you guys very much so being here. So let's see. Any DRS updates? Expecting a drop again? AK drop, but nothing important. Sooner or later, why would they expect 5 billion, 10K drop? That's what you want to see. Tetron, 10K, 10K, 10K. Okay, thank you. Let's see. So let's read on the investment policy now. On March 18th, 2025, the board of directors of the company, the board, unanimously authorized a revised investment policy. In accordance with the revised investment policy, the board has delegated authority to manage the company's portfolio of securities investments to an investment committee of the board, consisting of the company's chairman of the board and chief executive officer, Ryan Cohen, and 2 independent members of the board, together with such personnel and advisors as the investment committee may choose. The investment committee regularly reviews risks related to the company's investment portfolio, including concentration risk, with allocating cash to various investment opportunities and considering related risk. The investment committee considers market-based factors, including risk-adjusted after-tax yields. When reviewing concentration risk, the investment committee considers the liquidity needs of the company, among other things. Okay, so they're going to be strategic. That's what I kind of get out of that. Very corporate-y talk. Investments are made in accordance with the guidelines of the investment policy that is reviewed at least annually with oversight conducted by senior officials in the investment committee. The overall goals of the investment policy, okay, so this is much more than we got in the past, are to provide sufficient liquidity to meet day-to-day financial obligations of the company and to optimize investment returns within the guidelines of the investment policy. Permissible investment instruments include cash and cash equivalents, bank obligations, money market funds, commercial paper, so relatively close to what the federal funds rate they'll be able to earn in interest, fixed income securities, obligations of the U.S. Treasury and U.S. government, tax-exempt obligations of state and municipalities, and corporate bonds and notes, equity securities limited to those listed on the New York Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange American, okay, listing standards, and certain cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, okay. Individual exceptions to the investment policy may only be made by the unanimous agreement of the investment committee, or if the investment committee is unable to reach unanimous agreement on such exception by the board. Interesting. Okay, so they mentioned other currencies. We saw something about stablecoins. Let's keep reading here. On March 25th, 2025, we announced that as part of our revisions to the investment policy, the board approved the addition of Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset, whereby a portion of our cash or future debt and equity issuances may be invested in Bitcoin. Okay, wow, guys. So this is very significant. Let's read the rest of this little part here. Then I'm going to circle back to this. Wow, I'm talking corporate to you guys. Let's circle back. We have not set a maximum amount of Bitcoin we may accumulate, and we may sell any Bitcoin we may acquire. Okay, so they're saying not going to just buy and hold forever like the Michael Saylor approach. So that's interesting. The investment committee will direct the investment activity of the company in public and private markets pursuant to authority granted by the board. Depending on certain market conditions and various risk factors, Mr. Cohen and other members of the investment committee, each in their personal capacity or through affiliated investment vehicles, may at times invest in the same securities in which the company invests. So Ryan Cohen could personally buy Bitcoin as well if he chooses to. That's what they're saying here. The board anticipates that such investments will align the interests of the company with the interests of related parties because it places the personal resources of such directors at risk in substantially the same manner as resources of the company in connection with investment decisions made by the investment committee or on behalf of the committee. So retail business, GameStop is actively focused on the below objectives. Establish omnichannel retail excellence. We aim to be the leading destination for games and entertainment products through our stores and e-commerce platforms. Achieve profitability during 2024. We continue to optimize our cost structure and align with our current and anticipated future needs. We continue to focus on cost containment as we look to increase efficiency. Expand our addressable market. Okay, let's see what we got here. Continue to explore ways to increase the size of our addressable market through new product and service offerings, such as PSA, selling PSA graded cards, including offerings in the graded collectibles category. Expansion of these categories provides the company with margin accretive opportunities that can assist the company in achieving its profitability goals. We purchase our new products worldwide through a broad number of manufacturers, software publishers, and distributors. Our largest vendors are Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, which are collectively accounted for a majority of our new product purchases in 2024. We've established certain rights with our primary gaming product vendors that reduce our risk of inventory obsolescence, including, in some circumstances, unsold product return policies and protections against price. Okay, so a lot to unpack there, but this seems to be the business priorities, right? Business strategy, business priorities, same sort of thing. So you can see this is being simplified more and more over time. And, what they're talking about over here in terms of like especially this last part, unsold product returns and product protections against price. So basically they don't want to have to get stuck in a spot where they're going to have to sell products for a loss. That's what I'm reading from that. And I think that kind of goes back to what we saw here in terms of what Ryan Cohen had posted about. So these are the 4 different jobs that Ryan Cohen has posted about over the past year or so. So first he posted about retail and supply chain, head of omnichannel engineering, and then motion designer and software engineers. So the second 2, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with those 2. Maybe that's something they're looking to do in the future or something they're working on right now. But for these 2, right, the retail supply chain and head of omnichannel engineering, these are probably the type of individuals that are handling those type of business priorities. So that falls in line with that. And I think It all goes back to the fact that like they're primarily focused on being profitable. So now here to circle back to the spicy stuff, Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset whereby a portion of our cash or future debt and equity issuances may be invested in Bitcoin. We have not set a maximum amount of Bitcoin may accumulate and may sell any Bitcoin we acquire. Okay, so portion of our cash or future debt and equity issuances. So that's really interesting, right? GameStop hasn't had debt, with the exception of the small French loan they have, in a long time, right? Since Ryan Cohen took the chair. So now that they're saying that, that's really interesting. So it's not impossible they'll issue debt going forwards. And it sounds like, would it be like a 0% convertible strategy similar to MicroStrategies? Because they're saying future debt and equity issuances. Maybe, I'm not exactly sure. It seems like they're kind of hinting that there with that specific language. We have not set a maximum amount of Bitcoin we may accumulate, and we may sell Bitcoin we may acquire. So they're not going to say, hey, we'll stop at a certain point with Bitcoin. But they're also saying like, hey, if Bitcoin goes up a lot in the short term and we need cash for a different avenue of business, or we want to just make the balance sheet stronger and just purely hold cash, or whatever way they see it, right? They're not scared to sell the Bitcoin. That's how I'm reading that, at least. So, wow. Okay. So a lot going on. We have positive net income, positive free cash flow, referencing to buying Bitcoin. A couple other spots, it's certain cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. Those of you that know me know I'm a Bitcoin only guy. I'm Bitcoin maxi, so I would prefer they really only do Bitcoin, and also the stable coins. I don't really see the point in that, right? But I'm going to do more reading on it, more digging, digest this a little bit more. Also I encourage all of you, you're probably having a lot of different thoughts right now, hearing a lot of different things from myself and just different individuals out there posting on X or Reddit, wherever else. And just realize that we have to digest it a little bit, right? Like, it's always good, analyze everything on the spot, but then come back tomorrow with a fresh mind and be like, okay, what's going on here? Maybe let me read it again. Let me see if there's something I missed, right? Let's see the price action right now. So not too crazy of price action, right? I guess the market was kind of pricing in that GameStop was going to be getting into Bitcoin, or maybe the market's generally kind of confused. Like, okay, they're going to get into Bitcoin, but they didn't buy it yet. But also like, wow, net income is really strong. Free cash flow is positive. So that to me is the most encouraging thing of all, right? Take out the Bitcoin, take out the whole acquisition side of things. Overall, they turned a strong net profit for the year and a strong positive free cash flow, and they're only winding down more that's not profitable. So with that happening, I just think they're in a great spot. And now Bitcoin is just kind of like icing on the cake, and then any other, potential acquisitions they make. It's going to be really interesting. GameStop's always interesting, right? But it's going to be really interesting to see what things look like going forwards. And knowing how GameStop is, I don't think, if they buy Bitcoin, right, I don't think we're going to hear about it until the next quarterly report. So to be honest, guys, we might have to wait 3 months to know if GameStop has acquired any Bitcoin yet. Because also, keep in mind, the balance sheet and these numbers, right, are as of February 1st. However, as I'm saying that, it says on March 18, 2025, they revised the policy. So theoretically, I don't think they could have bought Bitcoin prior to March 18th, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I was like, well, if the balance sheet doesn't show Bitcoin right now, but the quarter technically ended February 1st, could they have bought Bitcoin between February 1st and now? And now I'm thinking, not necessarily, because if they revised the policy on the 18th, then maybe it's a situation where they bought Bitcoin between now and the 18th, but that's a really small window. Or, they're going to buy it at some point later this quarter, or maybe not even this quarter, right? Because think about it. If Q1, which we're in right now, is February, March, April, and then they go and buy Bitcoin on May 2nd, we're not even going to see that in the next earnings report. We're going to see the following earnings report, right, when they're reporting on Q2 earnings. So just got to be patient here, guys, in terms of like if you're really wanting them to buy Bitcoin. So we'll see, but a potential indicator, if they turn around and issue shares at some point in the future or debt, maybe that's an indicator they're about to buy Bitcoin. I'm not too sure, right? But a lot going on here. Let's keep scrolling through. Distribution information, providing convenient and broad merchandise selection for our customers, facility, store locations, inventory management, optimize efficiency. Okay, so efficiency and really focusing on profitability. Sensitive. Okay, these are general just statements. Risk factors, we know about that. So let's see, computer share, direct, registered shares. Transfer agent. Okay. So let's see. There were 447 million shares of stock outstanding. Of those outstanding shares, about 377.6 million were held at Seed & Co. As of March 19, 2025, there were 190,000 record holders of our Class A common stock. And approximately 16% of shares, or 69.5 million shares, were held there. So about the same as last time, right? This number has been pretty steady for a while. A lot of discussion around that, but we'll kind of keep going here for now. So I guess investment policies, our priorities is about the same, right? Oh yes, this is basically what was already seen over here in the news report. Store count information. So there's one opening in Canada, 11 closures, but we know they're going to eventually not have any of these stores. So they closed 590 stores in the US, they're down to 2.3. I know they closed 2 fairly recently in my area. And then Europe, they've wound down a lot of the stores. Australia, this is the one segment that is pretty much still going to be kept internationally. So really, GameStop's just going to operate out of the US and Australia going forwards, because they're pretty much winding down out of Europe. And in Canada, we also know they're winding down on that as well. So stay tuned to see more on that. And then we already kind of went through these numbers. But yeah, I'll allow myself to breathe because I feel like I've been ranting for about 30 minutes right now. So quick reset. Let's see what's going on in the chat. No ATM. Yes, WM. That's encouraging. Game Informer's back Tetron. GME still owes it, right? Never mind, it was sold. Seems like it's hitting a ceiling at 27. Professor Plum, thanks for being here. Yeah, we're not moving too much. I actually, considering everything I've read, I have to say I thought the stock would have went up more. But also, there's a long way between now and when the market opens tomorrow, so it could be higher by then. But also, you just don't know with a stock like GameStop, right? It's like every time you think it's going to do one thing, it tends to do another. So I just expect anything and everything when it comes to the stock, right? GameStop has to drop an 8K when they buy Bitcoin, just like MSRT. Oh, yes, that's a good point, Eggman. You're right. They always have to come out with like, hey, we bought Bitcoin. So that is true. I don't think we'll necessarily have to wait till the next earnings report now that you're mentioning that. We've got room to test 29.30. Absolutely, Ryan, right? Because look at it. Just, earlier this year, we were in the mid 30s, right? On none of this news. That's why it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, in here, it could trade in like the low 30s, but now we get this news and it's barely moved up. But at the same time, the general market was higher at that time, but also fine. So be it. Let it be. I always think, in the short term, let the stock do whatever it's going to do. It's just going to give individuals who want to go long more time to accumulate shares, and also just let the market play out, right? And I think anything underlying just bubbles to the surface over time in terms of any kind of suppressed short interest. If the company just succeeds, drives forward, has positive net income, positive free cash flow, and we're going to see what they do with this Bitcoin stuff now, right? Those of you that know me know I already personally hold Bitcoin, so I don't need them to acquire Bitcoin, but it seems like it's something they're going to be dabbling in, right? Especially because Ryan Cohen's following Bitcoin Magazine. But how exactly it plays out, what percentage of their cash is going to be turned into Bitcoin, that is completely to be determined. And also, are there going to be more share issuances, debt issuances? Is the debt issuance going to be a standard debt issuance, or is it going to be more of like a convertible share debt issuance, kind of similar to what MicroStrategy is doing? I don't know, guys, but I'm excited to find out. So GME has not bought Bitcoin as of right now. I think it has like 3 days to file. I forget. That sounds about right, Negative. It sounds about right. So yeah, as of right now, they have not bought Bitcoin. That is worth saying, as far as I can tell, unless there's something I'm missing here. But oh man, this is great, guys. This is great. Like, in terms of just seeing what net income is, the future's so bright. I literally have to keep the sunglasses on. The sun is shining through because the future is bright. It's almost the summer. The vibes are good, But of course, please, no matter how good you feel or how bad you feel, like, I think generally you want to digest things, right? You don't ever want to go make rash decisions, quick decisions, YOLO decisions, right? Whether it's with GameStop or anything else. So try and just really digest the information. And even if you're looking at it all today, reading all these opinions, and then, go back a little bit tomorrow, over the weekend, and just say, okay, do I still feel this way? Is there something I missed? Should I maybe be feeling a different way, right? Like different stuff like that. So seems like to have cooled off now. I wonder at what price point they're willing to start buying Bitcoin. Hey, has the announcement call happened yet? Ben, thanks for being here. Typically, GameStop does not do an earnings call, and that seems like it will be the case today. So do not expect an earnings call. I don't think they're going to have one. But yeah, I wonder when they're going to buy Bitcoin as well, because it's like, if they didn't already, we've been in the same kind of range for Bitcoin, so I would assume they're going to do it soon if they believe it's going to go higher, right? So shouldn't we just be able to, yeah. It's at a bit of a dip right now, and those of you that know me, I'm long on it anyway, so I'm not, what I do is I just auto buy $3 every day, right? I bought, way back here in this area. So right at this point, I'm just auto buying $3 a day. It would be interesting if GameStop just did like an averaging in type of thing. I don't really see a scenario where out of nowhere they're going to buy like $1 billion of Bitcoin. It's not impossible, but I do see them taking like a slow and like steady approach if they are going to go acquire it, right? And we see it did bottom at 78, 77 here, so maybe they look for that. But that's a great question. Like, is there a particular price point that they're seeking in order to get an entry into? But also, when I read about MicroStrategy a little bit and how they go about things, they have, from what I understand, a dedicated team that's tracking the markets and like particularly choosing when to issue shares, particularly choosing like when to acquire Bitcoin. Some form of quantum finance team, right? So I do wonder if GameStop's going to kind of hire for that in some way, or add, a couple higher up executives to specifically focus on that. So then, Ryan Cohen doesn't have to spend too much energy on that, and other board members or just executives could still focus on the core legacy business, as well as, what they're doing with PSA. And obviously, like, Nat Turner's a part of that. But what an interesting time it is for GameStop, right? Like, it's pretty crazy to me that it's only at 27 right now, but at the same, again, I'm not surprised though, just knowing how it is. But I probably feel the best I've felt in a long time holding the stock, to be honest with you. Not that I was necessarily feeling bad, but just seeing the direction they're moving in. And to me, overall, out of everything I've talked about today, going into the earnings and the actual earnings, the really strong net income and positive free cash flow is really, really encouraging to me, right? So now we can do like trailing PE, right? So if it's trading at 27, right, and their EPS was about, what, 29 cents? 29 cents divided by 27. So, whoops, sorry, it would be 27 divided by 29 cents. So their trailing PE is about 93, right? But then let's say they can double EPS this year, right? Or let's say their EPS would be 75 cents for full year 2025, right? Just throwing a random number out there. If that were the case, right, then you look at forward PE, you're looking at 27 divided by 75. All of a sudden, you're looking at a forward PE of 36. It's not that rich. I'm not saying it's cheap, but, that's also the thing, too. I don't think the market's going to be able to price that in. If you're looking at an EPS of $1, right, for the full year 2025, which I don't think is impossible, and again, I'm just throwing numbers out there at this point, so we're going to need some time to kind of see how it unfolds. But if that happens, then forward PE would be 27 on the stock. So in being consistently profitable, we're going to start to be able to see and kind of guesstimate and estimate, whatever you want to call it, what the forward PE might be on the stock. And you can also calculate trailing PE. And you start to use different metrics. And I think that kind of opens the door to more potential investors and more people following GameStop that are like, oh, it's just a silly meme stock, right? But at this point, anyone who's saying like, oh, the company's going bankrupt or like there's no future, like just simply isn't reading the numbers, right? And even if you don't consider the Bitcoin side of it that they're talking about doing now, just looking at the net income, operating income, and free cash flow are really, really, really encouraging signs, right? And keep in mind, this isn't just for the fourth quarter either. This is for the full year, right? Like look at the full year's cash flow. Let's see where it is. Ooh. Right here. So positive free cash flow for the year, and then also like look at their net income, or that's the quarter, but look at their net income versus last year, right? So it's going to be very exciting to go ahead and up these charts over here. Oh my gosh, guys, my throat's getting worse. I don't know how much longer I can go. Kill the germs. But oh man, what a day! The future's so bright. The future's so bright. But thanks, dude. No problem, Ben. All right, let's go. We green. I'm sure DFE's happy to see his numbers. I would think so, Ryan. I would think so. I wonder if we'll get any posts from him anytime soon. And just the other little things, guys, right? They're doing like CandyCon controllers, which, I'm not saying it's groundbreaking, although I do have one. Use it here and there, right, on the computer. It's nice. It also is compatible for the Switch. They have this Raptor E controller. They have Mod Retro. And now this PSA collaboration, so pricing went up a little bit. Again, that's because PSA's pricing went up. But really, why the PSA partnership to me is most encouraging is because it's getting people who are new collectors like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll go through the grading process. Let me visit my GameStop. And then even if like 20% of those people buy a product, that's 20% who wouldn't have bought it before, or a handful of people who wouldn't have bought it before. Not a handful, but you guys know what I'm trying to say here. Like, it's more people that are shopping at GameStop that might not have before. And also, it's just getting more people in the game. And like I said, last time I went to GameStop to pick up my cards, all of a sudden I bought a box of hockey cards. And then I unpacked a few, right? And I posted them on Twitter, and I think I was kind of wrong, right? So I looked these up. When I took this out, right, Matt Rempe, I'm a Devils fan, so it's kind of funny that I got him. But if this gets a PSA 10, I took it out with like literally gloves and immediately put it in the sleeve. Same with this Connor Bedard one. He's absolutely sick. He's going to be a stud in this league in a few years. So these will be worth a decent amount if they come back 10. So that's really exciting. And then if that happens, and when I go to drop them off, guess what? I'm probably going to buy more hockey cards. And then when I go to pick up my graded cards, I'll probably bring new ones to be graded, right? Or maybe buy another hockey box. And all of a sudden, like, I'm getting back into like hockey cards, and that's something I haven't done in a while. So just doing a lot of the little things right. And now Bitcoin, whatever they're going to do with that, right? However they're going to go about it, and I think that kind of has to be determined, is a whole other side of what they're doing. So it's really, really interesting to me the way they've just silently moved forwards. And also one other thing that there's not really anything on right now, but GameStop was hiring for it, so I do wonder what it means. Like, when you look at what Ryan Cohen's posted about, what are they hiring a highly talented and creative motion designer for? Excuse me. And it was only for a few months. Like, it seems like a specific project. And then a software engineers in Dallas with 10 plus years of full stack React / Java. Not exactly sure what that would be for, but they're building something. There's people have theorized bringing back the NFT marketplace and things of that nature, but we just saw that they mentioned, like, yeah, we've wound down that side of business. So I feel like they would have indicated if they were getting back into it, but let's see. 69.5 million DRS, net income positive, free cash flow. Wow, seriously good 10K. Couldn't agree more, Infinity Nova. I have to say, I feel like the stock would have been up more, right? If you told me the numbers going in, and you told me, oh, the stock's only going to be up at like $26, $27, I'd say, really? I feel like it'd be a little bit more, but market's going to do what the market's going to do, right? And all this is really going to do is give long-term investors more time to continue to accumulate shares, right? And I'm not telling you that's what you should do, to be perfectly clear. Everyone's got to make their own decision, but yeah, that's really what it comes down to. So only 7 likes. This guy's pretty good. Thanks, Dan. If you guys could drop a like, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying, to do my best to cover it, but I got to get you the 09 Zach Parise card. Hey, man, Ryan, that'd be sick if you had that. Zach Parise was like my favorite player growing up. I have his signature somewhere. I remember like going like a signing at like some what's it called? Not DMV. Like at a Toyota or something like that. So a long, long time ago. So that'd be sick. Yeah, like a Zach Parise rookie card, but it'd be so cool one day to have like a Wayne Gretzky rookie card, although I'm sure that's like literally like $1 bajillion, right? So, yeah, let's see. Are you guys sending me some goofy stuff? Let's see. Get some comments. The alien. Oh, damn, this is already doing numbers. I hope you guys like this. I just let my mind run free with this one. Let's see. Good margins. Shout out Annoying Bob. I know he's been very skeptical. Shout out to you if you're here of like what GameStop's doing, but he's always been very nice to me. Always comments on my stuff. And listen, I always say, I welcome the Bulls. I welcome the Bears. Everybody can come in here. You can say whatever you want. It's fine. I'm not gonna get butthurt by it. There used to be one guy. I wish he was here right now. Actually, who would be like, "I'm showing everyone in my company at your stream. How silly you are, you GameStop people." And I'm like, okay, thanks for showing me to more people. And that's what makes me laugh too when people, like especially when it's like a long thing that I write, comment like, "Oh," like one person, right? His name's like, I don't even know. I don't even want to give him any attention. But he commented something on this and he was like, "You think GameStop's making 40 to 45%? Ha! They're making like 10%. And I'm like, okay, I don't think that's the case because they're doing so much volume. They have Nat Turner on the board. So I'm sure they have some kind of discount. Sure, maybe not the 40% number. Maybe that was an overestimate. However, for you to go through all the way through and comment that means you read the whole thing. And Twitter, like Algo, X, whatever you call it these days, the Algo sees that you went all the way through, read it, and commented. So that's just helping me. So that's why I say, like, I welcome the Bulls, I welcome the Bears, because it's all engagement, right? So I'm just trying to cover the story as best I can, and like people don't want to agree. that's fine. Like, not everyone has to agree, right? And in a way, I kind of say this with Bitcoin, but it's the same with GameStop. If not everyone agrees, you know you're still early, right? Whereas like with Palantir, another stock I have shares with, I have shares in. With Palantir, I feel like everyone now is like, oh, Palantir's so great, Palantir's so great. And now I'm like, okay, like I've been done buying that stock for a while, right? Like I have a great cost basis, and I honestly personally think it's overvalued right now, but I'm just holding my shares on a long-term basis, so I'm like, whatever. But it feels like now Palantir, there's still skeptics, of course, but it doesn't feel like we're early anymore, right? Whereas when Palantir was like floating in the 10 to 20 range in the low 20s, it still felt like we were early, right? So to speak. So with GameStop and Bitcoin, I feel like we're still early on both of those. And now GameStop's getting involved in some shape or form, right? So, wow. That's all I can say, guys. Wow. I have so many different thoughts right now, so many different emotions. I wish I got better sleep last night. And yeah, the future's bright. That's why the sun's shining, right? So appreciate you guys being here. If you want to drop a like, subscribe, follow me on X. I'm going to do a lot more writing. That's something I've been doing a lot as of late. Just writing about GameStop and just things going on in the market because I'm really just fascinated by it, right? And also, if you check out the video I just posted, this is just a little silly video I made a while back, and I was sitting on it, and then I'm like, why am I waiting to post this, right? It's just a silly little video for fun. It's just like AI based, Although you'll see, if you see me comment, there's gonna be one person who's like, "This is AI," and I'm gonna be like, "No, dude, no way. What are you talking about? Aliens are real." So Twitter's a wild place, right? Like, if you spend too much time on it, you could just like rot your brain. But at the same time, it's like a lot of fun because there's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on there, right? There's like haters, people love this, people love that. There's just a wild, wild west, right? And that's what kind of makes it like so enjoyable, but at the same time, like so frustrating at times. But to me, overall, to recap, the thing I'm most excited about is really the strong net income, the strong net income, the strong EPS, really focusing on cost containment, right? And even like what we see over here. Let's see, May 17th. Okay, that was the share sales. One thing I wanted to touch on again. This right here, right? Like this is a great thing. It's really small, but it's a really great thing. This is when they mention like Microsoft. Okay, this right here, right? Like this is really small, but I think this is like really, really positive. This last line. We have established certain rights with our primarily gaming product vendors that reduce our risk of inventory obsolescence. I'm not even gonna try right now. I'm too drained. Including and in some circumstances, unsold product return policies and protections against the price. So, unsold product return policies and protections against the price. So, really trying to mitigate risk as much as possible in terms of like situations where they might have to sell a product for a loss. That's how I read that. And remember when Ryan Cohen posted like, "Hey, I want to talk to." I think the CEO of Microsoft, like, try to get in touch with whatever. Please reach out to me. And that's probably the type of thing he was discussing, right? And then also when you see that they hired, a head of omnichannel engineering and people working on the retail supply chain, like those are the little things they're working on. And these are the little things that are helping them achieve further profitability, right? And we're seeing that in the numbers. And, again, the naysayers and the people not truly paying attention, in my opinion, are going to say, oh, this doesn't mean anything. Oh, it's not going to take them anywhere, right? But they're just getting more and more profitable. And like, yes, revenue is going to fall throughout 2025. And in the previously I had said, and just to be clear, guys, I make mistakes. I want to be completely transparent about that. Previously I said, I was like, oh, I don't think revenue will fall anymore. But as I continue to learn and understand things, I realized I was wrong. And revenue fell this year. And revenue is probably going to fall next year too, because they're winding down the Canadian and French operations. But guess what? Net profitability is going to continue to go up. And we see it in their commentary that it all comes down to increasing the bottom line. That is primarily what they're focused on. And in doing that, they're going to be able to continue to stack cash. And being able to continue to stack cash, they're going to increase the amount of cash per share. So essentially raising the floor on the stock, so to speak. Right? So if we wanted to do the math, so if we do cash and cash equivalents, right, of 4756.9, I'm going to add the marketable securities because it's essentially a cash equivalent, right, but it's just a little bit of a longer span, and then divide it by the amount of shares outstanding, which we have, where are you, shares outstanding? Pushing through, guys. My throat is really starting to burn, but we're pushing through here. All right, let's use the basic amount, right? Although it's about the same, 446.9. So GameStop has about $10.68 of cash. So I'll put that in here for future tweet. GameStop, I'll just put it right now, has GameStop now has, we'll put, you guys getting that inside look of my creative process, 10 per share in cash. I'll put equivalent. Whoops, spelling that wrong. Thank God for spell check. Has, what's the exact cash number? Which is approximately, because we consider the short-term securities as well. Where is the cash? Give me the cash. Okay. Nearly 4.8 billion in cash, and has amended investment policy to allow them to acquire Bitcoin when they see fit. I'll say Bitcoin at their discretion. Get a little more bougie. See, not a good speller, guys. If there was no spell check, I'd be so screwed. Discretion. See, I'm probably making a fool of myself right now. This is why I usually don't do this on the stream. Discretion, thank you. I'll put. By the way, guys, if you guys are trying to post an X or Twitter, always post like a picture or video with it because it just boosts you in the algo. So if you ever are noticing in your algo or in your scrolling through, or I should say your feed, it's almost always posted include a picture or video unless it's a post that someone that you follow closely or you see a lot of their stuff previously, or it's something that really blew up. Otherwise, most of the time it has a picture or video with it. So we'll take a screenshot now of where they talk about Bitcoin. Okay, let's see. Wow, so they mentioned Bitcoin 48 times in the 10K. So there's going to be more to read through. Although, you see this is in terms of like the risk related. So that is worth noting. So we'll add investment policy. Yeah, you guys are getting behind the scenes now of how I kind of post on Twitter. But see, oops, oh my gosh, now I'm all over the place. Where was that? That was approximately cash. But have also amended the invest policy to allow them to acquire Bitcoin at their discretion. Boom. Okay. There we go. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video. If it's too corny, maybe I don't make any more, but I just figured, have fun with it. But yeah, I'm really starting to get burnt out. So let's go through the chat, and I'll go absolutely as long as I can until I'm too tired to go anymore. Let's see, got to get you the 09. That's one hell of a bull flag shape. I know it's not necessarily the situation to read candles, but it sure is. Hey, listen, Professor Plum, there's nothing wrong with like reading charts and whatnot and like analyzing things, but for me, like, I just focus on the long term. I'm not saying, like, oh, you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. But to me, like, I don't really focus on that. I just focus on like what's going on fundamentally, right? But also, keep in mind, just to kind of ground everyone, don't even be surprised if somehow the stock is red tomorrow or literally just straight sideways, right? We're just back trading in the 25 range, like, because you just don't know with the stock market in general, any particular stock, what's going to happen in the short term. You just don't know, right? That's just how it goes. So Touch on what the growth hacking, no fucks given mindset, respect. Thanks, Sleep. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm trying to just be, as I continue to do YouTube, as authentic as possible at all times and just truly be myself and just accept, like, I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm just going to correct them, right? I'm going to make mistakes. That's just the reality of it, especially when I'm covering everything in real time doing live streams, but I'm just always going to try and correct it as best as possible. GME to the moon tomorrow. Marcelo, hey, you never know, man. You never know. We'll see. Obsolence. Thank you, Doobie. Thank you. I should have checked that sooner. I got you. I appreciate it. Doobie does. That is huge, though. They can hold inventory with less risk of it going out of date. Having to 1, pay the store, 2, sell at a loss. Exactly, Doobie. Exactly. It seems like a really small thing, but that is really significant, right? Because when you're primarily focusing on profitability, anytime you take a loss on any product at all, that's going to hurt your bottom line, right? And you always have to account for, in retail, there's always going to be something called shrink, which is just basically product that goes missing. So those of you that don't know, I previously worked at Marshall's. When I was in high school, I worked there, and then I worked there into college. And in college, I worked my way up and became an assistant manager. So I learned a lot about the retail game. Very stressful. Learned how to deal with all kinds of difficult people and just basically how to eat shit and just keep moving forwards, right? Because I just dealt with annoying managers, no disrespect to them, but certain ones I'm like, all right, let's chill, right? Or just district managers, all that, and then also crazy customers. But when you do inventory once a year, right, or quarterly, depending on the company, they do inventory, they count every single thing in the store, and they reference that back to what they have on file, right? What in their system says how much product. So if they count, they should have 3,000 items in the store, but then they actually count everything in the store, and they only count 2,850. That's 150 items missing, right? Probably because someone stole it. Maybe someone bought something and they forgot to scan it, right? Things like that are considered shrink. So shrink is always going to lead to loss. So there's always going to be loss for any retail company in some shape or form. So you don't want to also be adding on to that with selling products at a loss because they're just out of date. So when you have something in place where in some situations you can go back to the supplier and essentially give them the product back or get a discount relative to them discounting it or something of that nature, that's really big, right? And it's another small thing that just adds up over time. Hollow 100%. Hey, Marcelo, that's how we roll here. Don't need to know how to spell when you're busy counting millions. Doovie, this guy gets it, man. This guy gets it. Thanks for being here. John Boyd, there's no earnings call. GameStop hasn't done an earnings call in quite a while. They just report the numbers, file the 10Q or 10K. In this case, it's a 10K because it's an annual report. And then we just see what they say, right? That's just kind of how they rock and roll. What's up, gang? GME gang, good earnings. Yes, sir, Freshmaker. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Dude, I always remember, you're literally the reason I didn't return this headset. Because I got it and I was like, it's not working. It's not working. Like, have you tried pushing the mic all the way in? And then I did it and I was like, oh, thank you. So you're an OG, man. I appreciate you. When's the earning call? Offbeat earning call? There's no earning call, my friends. No earnings call. GameStop typically does not do an earnings call. If they do, I would be surprised, and it probably would have been at 5, and we haven't seen it, right? So GameStop hasn't done an earnings call in quite some time. Let's see officially, right? Usually they say, like, we're not doing an earnings call. See, they don't even mention it here, actually. Yep, the company will not be holding a conference call. Additional information can be found in the company's Form 10K. So I always like to say, like what's that song? It's like, don't believe me, just watch. That's literally GameStop. That's literally GameStop. They always say, like, don't believe us, just watch, right? They just say, just watch what we do. And I totally understand where some people are like, we got to know something. We want to know some kind of plan, right? But it's like, they're like, sorry, we don't care. You don't have to be an investor in us. We're going to do what we want to do. And it's up to you if you want to invest or not, right? That's really the approach they've taken, in my opinion, because they've just been like, don't believe us. Just watch, right? The company will not be holding a conference call today. Additional information can be found in the company's Form 10K, aka, don't believe us. Just watch, right? And we go to the 10K, and then we can see there is some spicy information, right? They're talking about acquiring Bitcoin as a treasury asset, what they're focusing on, their business priorities, right? Let's look at their official business priorities. Our strategy involves using our cash and other sources of liquidity to maximize shareholder value, including through potential investment and or acquisition opportunities, and optimizing our retail business to achieve profitability. Okay, still focusing on profitability, we've known that. Not totally ruling out the possibility of acquisitions of some kind, like whether it be like a small company, right? For example, people theorized like Funko a while back. Not necessarily, I think that would be the case. Although what I thought was interesting, and I meant to share this, I completely forgot, just remembering now. I saw not too long ago that the CEO or some high up executive, right, where a filing had to take place at Funko, did just buy a bunch of shares, right? And Funko's been down. So I was like, huh, does that have something to do with anything? Probably not, right? But just theoretically, right? Like if they did. Because see, like Funko has had a tough period of time, right? Where they went down for a long time. They've been kind of stagnant, and then they're down at the lowest level in a long time. So has a small market cap, right? So theoretically, right, when you're looking at an acquisition, usually you pay more than what it's worth. So theoretically, GameStop could buy out Funko for $600 million. But I'm not sure, that's what they would want to do, because just at a glance here, I'd have to look at the more specific filings. Because by the way, when you look at Yahoo Finance, it's a general overview. It's a good place to start. It's just taking a glance. But you really want to look at the company's particular financial filings, like their 10Qs, their 10Ks, their newsroom. Like I'm looking at GameStop now, right, to know the true numbers. Because in Funko, right, it says EPS of negative 28 cents, but maybe that was a one-off thing. I'm not exactly sure. But point being, they're not going to go acquire something that's not going to boost EPS and boost the bottom line. I think that's abundantly clear from how they've been speaking and how they've been going about things, right? And it's funny, look at the numbers here. I mean, looking at the chart rather, not much going on, right? We had this initial jump, we had this little whoop, whoop, woo, and then, okay, tailing off, now a little jump, but, again, by tomorrow, when we open, people start to digest this a little more. The market in general starts to digest this. We could open 28, 29, 30. I think it's not impossible. But also, it's just as not impossible that we open at 25 tomorrow, because you just don't know with this stock, right? Or the stock market in general, right? The stock market is always overreacting, right? Just generally speaking, even with like all the tariff stuff going on right now. Oh, everything's going down. And then, oh, actually the tariffs might be canceled. Oh, everything's going up, right? It just goes back and forth. And every action is a reaction, right? So if every action is a reaction, it's constantly reacting to the previous things, right? Generally speaking. But I think of it as like, let the market do whatever it's going to do. GameStop wants to open at 30 tomorrow, fine. GameStop wants to open at 25 tomorrow, fine. I have a long-term basis, so I'm not worried. I don't have any short-dated calls, so I really am content with whatever happens tomorrow. To me, I'm already satisfied with just seeing a strong earnings report. I'm not going to say, oh, I don't want the stock to go up, right, as a long-term investor, but I'm going to say, like, if it doesn't, fine. Okay, whatever. I see their fundamentals continuing to improve, the net income improving, doing all these different things, right? I'm just going to read about what's going on in the 10K and in the news report, and then focus on the long term. Whatever's going to happen in the short term is going to happen, right? You never know, right? Out of nowhere, we could get another saga like this, right? Or a period like this. We just get these like crazy volatile periods, historically have involved like Roaring Kitty and a lot of social media hype, but you just don't know with this stock, right? And in terms of underlying short interest, I don't touch on that too much, right? Because, and I was saying this a little bit before, those of you that know me know, is like, I do think I know, right, generally speaking, that there are ways to suppress short interest and positions held, right? When you look at what happened with Archegos' collapse, that's a great example. They were like way long on what is it, Viacom, CBS? Viacom, what was it? No, Paramount. Let's see. And nobody knew that it was them who were buying up the stock, right? So this is just an example, right? Let's go back here. So you see right here, look at, and we'll go to the nicer chart. This is the example I always go back to. It's a little bit of a unique situation, but at the same time, it just shows how like things could be suppressed and it's not even like showing up in the financial reporting. So Paramount was going through a crazy run up right here, right? And people thought, oh, well, because think about it, this is the pandemic right here. So everything starts climbing back. And then streaming is huge at that time, right? Because things are still kind of locked down, but money's being pumped in the system. A lot of online stocks, Zoom, streaming services are all performing really, really well, right? Better than they had in so long. And just the numbers are looking really good and all that. But it's like, you really think people are just going to keep spending a ridiculous amount on streaming and sit at home forever type of thing? Not saying people don't stream stuff, but point being, like Paramount, for example, is going up and up and up. And then all of a sudden one day, Archegos is like, oh yeah, actually, we're collapsing. They collapse. The stock literally goes down from like almost $100. Sorry, this is a single week, right? But if you go to the daily, like most of this was really in one day, all the way down to 40, right? And it's like, how the heck did that happen? It's because Archegos was just buying and buying and buying it up to try and like maintain their collateral for like money they were borrowing with other counterparties. So they were just buying and buying and buying. They were borrowing from other counterparties to just buy, and then basically make it look like they have more and more collateral. So that was causing the price to go up and up and up. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, actually, we don't have the money. So they had to dump all their shares just like that. And guess what? None of that was being reported, right? Like it all was happening behind the scenes. So where I'm going with this is that like there are ways to suppress things in the market. Like it's not this absurd, crazy like conspiracy theory, right? You can disagree with me. This is my opinion. But I think there are ways to suppress things and very creative ways and just complex ways that are just hard to fully grasp. There's a lot of theories out there, a lot of deep dive DDs, right? Due diligences. But for me, I just keep it simple as like, I'm going to focus on the fundamentals and what the company's doing. And if they're driving forwards and succeeding, ultimately, whatever's underlying, whoever's betting against it in whatever shape or form, it's going to bubble to the surface at some point or another, as long as they continue to turn a profit and continue to just strengthen the balance sheet and drive forwards as a company. So for me, I'll just focus on what the company's doing, and whatever's underlying will come to the surface at some point or another. I'm not in a rush. It's easy for me to say because I'm not in a rush at all, right? And again, the sun is shining because the future's so bright, right? So it's just shining right in my face. But let's see. All right, let's catch up on the chat. Every time I say chat, I feel so corny. Like, oh, what's up, chat? Right? Like, the streamers say these days. Oh, I'm saying that as if I'm not a streamer, right? But when is earnings call? No earnings call. So crazy about this huge earnings. There has not been a console cycle since 2020. Xbox new console may be a console with Windows, and Steam may be a game changer when it comes out. Good point, Doovie. Yeah, historically speaking, console cycles have been really beneficial to GameStop, especially in 2020, right? And that was part of Roaring Kitty's OG thesis, is that like, hey, we're entering a console cycle, like the market's completely overestimating the probability of GameStop's bankruptcy. Switch 2 coming out soon, isn't it? Yes, sir, Robert. That's correct. I think literally like in a couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken. My cousin was just telling me about it the other day. GTA 6 release will drive PS5 sales as hell. I think you meant as well, but you said as it will be released only 1 year later for PSA. That's a very good point. Switch 2 in April. Yes, sir. Best earnings since this all started. I'd rather be skiing. Thank you for being here. I know you'd rather be skiing, but you're here, so I appreciate it. But yeah, I think that's a very fair statement. This is, like, I am very happy right now. I'll say I'm very, very happy with this earnings report and just the really strong net income. And I think it's comical that the two analysts like following the stock, right? All two analysts estimating on the stock, estimating 35 million, right? Not saying like I'm a genius or anything like that, but my estimate was 67 million of operating income and 104 million of net income, because you just had to do the math on the cash equivalents and you knew they were going to earn at least like 48 million, right? That was my estimate, but it came in at more like 54 million. So with that, you really thought like those analysts really thought they were going to have a negative $15 million operating income? Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? And then they're going to say, oh, well, GameStop's revenue went down. They haven't, bought the Bitcoin yet. They're just saying they're going to, just wait. Tomorrow, the articles are going to be silly. I guarantee you. Now Jimmy's allowed to buy Bitcoin. Yes, sir. You're good, Frank. No worries, but thanks for being here. Now Jimmy's allowed to buy Bitcoin, but will they need to disclose it once they bought it, or the regs around this? If Jimmy starts showing profits off Bitcoin, others will pile in. Bullish 4.5 years in holding. LOL. Yes, sir. Skiing. Dude, what a ride this has been. Starts off way small back in 2021. Now it's way, way too much of my portfolio. LOL. I know what you mean, Chase. I know what you mean. I'll tell you guys in a story in a second how it all started for me, but I want to answer what Frank said. Yeah, my holdings have certainly grown over the years. Exactly, Skiing. Exactly. I was buying really from the heaviest range was from like late 2021 to about summer of last year, right? And then once it went up a little bit, I was buying all the way down to 10. And then once it started moving since then, I've kind of been content with my position. But I've also been stacking a lot of cash, kind of like GameStop, just in preparation of like life events ahead, like buying a house and stuff like that I want to do. But here's the dollar cost average Bitcoin, or just dump an earmarked amount. Historically, DCAs over the 4 years never fails. Exactly, Doovie, exactly. I was buying Bitcoin in chunks previously, but what I do at this point is every time I get paid, I use an app called Strike. Not advertised by them, so you guys don't have to use them. Buy Bitcoin wherever you see fit. But I buy on Strike, and then I transfer to my cold wallet, which I have right here. AliPal, that's the one I've been using. But what I do is, every time I get paid, for my job. I get paid bi-weekly. So every time I get paid, I put in about like $55 and I have an auto buy. So every single day at noon, I auto buy $3 of Bitcoin. And every month or two, I transfer my Bitcoin into my cold wallet and I just keep accumulating because I already have my like large chunks that I wanted to buy. And now I'm just continuing to dollar cost average in. And then in terms of I guess I do have to put on sunglasses. I can't decide if I want them on or off. I'm probably driving you guys crazy, but in terms of like, does GameStop have to file when they buy Bitcoin, right? That's a great question, right? So this is where I like to use Grok, although let me fully disclose. What I'm about to, like, I'm just doing this on the spot here. You can't just blindly trust this. Excuse me. You have to always fact check this stuff. So I'm going to try and dive into this deeper later, but this is how I go about things, right? I could say like GameStop just amended their investment policy, allowing them to buy Bitcoin. Will they have to make an SEC filing upon actually buying Bitcoin at a future date? All right, this is kind of how I go about things. Let's see. And then I could say, give me some sources. Yes, so if GameStop actually purchase Bitcoin in the future after amending their investment policy to allow it, they will likely need to disclose an SEC filing depending on the materiality of the transaction. As a publicly traded company, GameStop is subject to the reporting requirements of the U.S. Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Here's details. So 8K filing, periodic reports. Even if the purchase isn't immediately reported via an 8K, it's not deemed material enough for an immediate filing. It will still need to be reflected in GameStop's next quarterly or annual report. These filings require companies to update their financial statements, so you know about that. Timing and details. The amendment to their investment policy allowing Bitcoin purchases doesn't itself trigger a filing requirement for future purchases. It just sets the stage. The actual act of buying Bitcoin would trigger the need for disclosure, with the timing and type of filing depending on the size and impact of transactions. Yes, need to make SEC filing. Okay, so I would say, like, I could say, like, give me some specific sources, or in this case, right, just because we're kind of going through it fast here, I'm going to say, what does MicroStrategy, also what does MSTR do when they acquire additional Bitcoin? Right, just as a reference point. They typically follow a structured process aligned with their corporate strategy, like using Bitcoin as treasury reserve asset, funding the purchase, okay, acquisition. They often disclose an average price. For example, SEC disclosure. The public traded company reports a significant Bitcoin purchase to the SEC. This involves filing a Form 8K within 4 business days if the purchase is deemed material. See what deems it as material, though, right? Public announcement. He usually announces it too, so I guess it's a factor. I could say, what do other companies that acquire Bitcoin do? Do they all do 8K filings? And again, this is how you start, and then now you should go actually check these companies. You should actually go read, specific SEC documents, right? And then if you go read an SEC document and you say, hey, this doesn't make sense, what I do is I copy and explain that specific section into Grok or any, ChatGPT or whatever, and say, explain in simple terms. And then they explain it in simple terms, and that's how you learn. And then you could use an app like this, right? Obsidian, where you just take notes and you just add to your notes and everything over time, right? See, I got a whole entanglement of stuff going on here that I actually have to organize at some point in the near future. Let's see, Tesla, they didn't file an immediate 8K, right? So it came up when they did the 10K. Marathon acquires Bitcoin through mining. Okay, yeah. So, but that's how you kind of start, right? But to give you guys perspective, right, in my journey with GameStop, I've told the story before, so I apologize if you've heard it already. But this is, all about knowing thyself and on a journey. So, for me, I'm 24, turning 25 this year, right? So I'm by no means an expert in the market. I want to be perfectly clear about that. However, I'm very fortunate at my age to have the experience that I do. So at 17, I was starting to get interested in this stuff, and I set up a co-account with my mom. I remember going to Scott Trade. That was the thing at the time, which eventually became acquired by TD Ameritrade. Now, TD Ameritrade is owned by Schwab, right? So these all banks and institutions always just swallow each other up, right, and get bigger and bigger and bigger. But point being, I started at that time. I would trade penny stocks. I was day trading. And then in 2017-18, I was trying to do meme coins at that time. I even was silly enough to buy BitConnect. I don't know if anyone remembers that, right? Way back in the day, complete scam. Then I even tried Forex. I tried day trading options. I tried complex option strategies, 4-leg strategies, right? The straddle and all that different stuff, right? And all kinds of silly things, right? Day trading and all the way up until, like, on and off up until 2021, right? And I was always interested in making money. I used to go to garage sales as a separate thing, right? To buy stuff, to then turn around and sell on eBay. Try to go to Goodwill to buy stuff and sell it on eBay. Do all that kinds of stuff. But basically, I always try to do different things and just be active in trying to make money. And then, during the pandemic, I had kind of stopped trading. And then during the pandemic in here, right, I was like, let me start trading, right? I wasn't trading GameStop, I was trading other stocks. I trade Palantir in early January 2021. I make really, really good money on some call options, because if you look at Palantir back then, right before GameStop went up, so obviously, it's doing really well now. I am a shareholder. I acquired shares in here, but back here, right, I bought calls right here. It had what DPO, not IPO, is a direct public offering, so people were kind of rushing into it. And see, it starts going up right here. Oh no, I bought it right here, and I basically bought it into this period, right? Because you can see this is right pre-January 2021 for GameStop. So I made some really good money on calls from here to here. And then my friend told me, like, buy GameStop. And I was just day trading calls and going back and forth. I buy, GameStop goes up a lot one day. It comes all the way down. It's kind of stagnant. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy one call option. Farthest out of the money. It was like a $200 strike. At the time, the price was like 70. Is a weekly. It's like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember exactly. And I'm like, whatever. It's probably going to lose, right? It's only $200. I just made some great money. I buy that option, and it starts going up. The price starts climbing towards the end of the day, right? And this is really when the hype's kind of starting. A lot of people are really, really starting to talk about it, right? And this is the period of time where it goes from like a lot of people talking stocks to like a lot of people in general start talking about it, right? Like just people I knew it was getting crazy when people who like don't normally follow stocks. I was from high school were texting me like, hey, what's going on with this GameStop stuff? And I was like, oh my gosh. But point being, it's going up and up and up. And the option goes from being worth 200 to 400, 600, 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm making so much money. This is crazy. And then when it gets to like the 1,000 mark, I'm like, all right, at 5x, I'm going to go sell. I go to sell. I'm out of day trades. It's like, you're going to be a pattern trader. You're not going to be able to sell. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this thing's definitely going to crash tomorrow. Like it's such a far out of the money strike. What did I do? Whatever though. You know what? I was like, I'm up so much. Like if it's up, I'll just sell it first thing tomorrow, right? It goes to 1,800 by the market close, maybe even like worth 2,000, right? So basically my option, I bought it I bought it at 2. At this point, it's trading at like 20. So basically 10x in one day. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to sleep tonight? What am I going to do? And then it hits after hours, and that's when Elon Musk tweets GameStonk, and this thing goes nuts. It goes, that's like the one day, I don't know, I don't think I could go all the way back here at this point. I hope I can. I can kind of show you guys better. This is GME still, right? Yeah. This is, oh, wow, I went way too far. Whoops, I didn't expect it to go that fast, but I buy right here, right? Yeah, this is when it starts going crazy. It's like right here. Okay, so this Tuesday, I'm pretty sure it was this day, the price had went up to here, and then midday it fell all the way back down, and then that's when I bought the option, and then it started, and obviously this is split adjusted now, and then it started climbing. After hours, I'm like, oh my gosh. Then after hours, Elon Musk tweets GameStonk, and then the next day, it goes all the way up here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And basically, I sold that option for like $16,000. Like it literally changed my life, and it was off 200. It was like ridiculous, right? Like ridiculous, stupid money. And I thought, holy shit. And I literally paid off a student loan. I was like incredibly blessed. I'm still thankful to this day that that happened to me. But, I just want to clarify, going up until that time, I had definitely lost a bunch of money, like doing all the stupid things, right? Trying Forex, trying day trading, trying to chase meme coins and all that, right? And I had lost money. But the fortunate thing is that at that time, I was a high school and college kid, so I never had that much money to lose. So I made all my silly mistakes before I had, like, not saying I have significant wealth now, but point being, like, before I could ever lose a lot of money. And then I made a ton with that, and I go, holy shit, like, my life has literally changed. And then all through here, right, through this whole period, because then it's still volatile, I'm playing options, so I lost on some options here. I made some money on an option here. I lost some options here. And then I made some money here, and then I lost some here, right? So then I'm kind of like bouncing. I basically was breaking even in this whole era, right? Like there was some that made some good money, some that lost. And then it finally gets to here, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start buying shares. Like this is too stressful. And at this point too, if anyone's like been around a long time, through this era, a lot of people start writing about on Superstock and other places like you shouldn't be trading options. Like that's what the market makers want, things like that. And I start just understanding better, like really, really how the game works. I would say. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch to shares. So I was very, very fortunate to make the money I did back there. And then, like I said, I lost a lot. Not anywhere near that. Like I don't really know the exact number, right? But I made a lot of silly mistakes leading up to that. And then I was still making mistakes after. And I was like, all right, let me switch to just buying shares. And then really from here, right? This like, I think June was it when I really started buying shares in 2021 because I was playing options this whole way. And I just started buying shares. I said, I'm done with options, right? I'm completely done. So just buying shares, buying shares, buying shares, buying shares the whole way. And right around in here, I stopped, right? Not because I was like, oh, like I don't want to buy it anymore, but I was like, once it started doing this, I was like, okay, this is why I've been buying shares the whole way down. And to clarify, I didn't sell any shares on this run up right here. But at this point too, I decided, right? And now it's held up much higher since then, right? So I have shares that I bought at like 10, 11, $12. But at this point, looking at my whole position, I'm very content with what I have. I'm not going to say I'll never buy shares again, but I just honestly haven't in a while because I'm very content where I'm at personally. And that's just me. And I think, that's a really big, important part of investing, like knowing where you're at personally and like how you want to go about things and what your personal goals are. So that's really been my whole journey with GameStop. And I'm still here today with a bunch of shares and just running out. I'm not going to buy calls, right? And then I said, also like earlier in the stream. So when I stopped buying shares though, what I did do was I started putting money into a separate account where I started selling puts. And a couple times I've gotten, I would say quote unquote screwed where I had to turn around and sell a call, which like hurts my heart as a long-term shareholder. But it was only on puts that I got previously or shares I got previously assigned. I turned around and sold the call. And if you look it up, it's called like the wheel strategy where you sell puts. And then if your shares get assigned, you turn around, you sell calls until that gets assigned, and then you go back to selling puts, right? And also the reason I really like selling puts is because you also get the underlying interest, right? Because if you sell a $20 put on GameStop, you're putting up $2,000 of cash collateral, but then that $2,000 is also earning money market interest. Not groundbreaking, but it's like you're collecting the premium from the put that you sold to a put buyer, and you're also accumulating the interest income as well. But that's kind of been my whole journey. And, also in this whole period, I've also accumulated positions in a few other stocks I like, right? Like Fortinet and Palantir are kind of the main ones. And I've dabbled with other things and, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? And then the one right now I've been buying more recently, if anyone's curious, is like AMD. So again, that's just me. I want to be perfectly clear. I'm not in the business of giving financial advice. I'm just sharing my personal journey and like what I've gone through and like what positions I've kind of had and like my ups and downs. And like what I'm trying to say though is it's all a process, right? Like what I just explained was like 4 or 5 years in terms of GameStop, and then beyond that even like dabbling and doing stupid things through that whole time. So it's been all a learning journey in terms of like the game of investing and just how I've figured out what's best for me in terms of going about things. So if you're like newer to things or whatever, or even I would say even if you're only a couple years into like holding stocks, like you're still relatively new, or I would say even I'm still like not new, but I wouldn't say I'm like experienced, right, in terms of like investing. But I'm just very, very thankful to have the knowledge and experience I have at my age. And I keep trying to just gain more and more knowledge and experience. And for me, as long as GameStop's net income continues to improve and free cash flow is positive, I think they're in great shape. I would continue to hold their shares, right? And then you also think, well, when do you sell a stock, right? That's always like a question. But to me, it's a situation where if you still believe in the company to continue to move forwards and move in the right direction, then why would you sell, right? Just generally speaking. But if you're invested in a company, right, and then you don't like what they're doing anymore, that's where you maybe consider selling, right? I think I'm just speaking very generally, right? If GameStop all of a sudden was like, yeah, we're going to very aggressively go into selling cars, right? Or something absurd. I don't know, like cars you drive, right? Like, oh, we're going to make GameStop electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. I'd be like, what the hell? Like, this is not what I'm investing for. Like, and I would have to reconsider, right? That's just a random example. Or Fortinet, right? Which is a cybersecurity company. If all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're going to sell cell phones and call it the Fort phone, I'd be like, what the hell? Why? That's not what I want, right? So what I'm trying to say is like, if you believe in the company, and I think you have to believe in the company's management, just like I believe in GameStop's management, then you don't have to look for a particular price point at which you want to sell. And it's kind of like DFV says, no particular price point, just up. Because if you believe in what the company's doing and the direction they're going in, then why would you have to set a particular price point, right? And also same with like a stop loss. If you still like what the fundamentals look like, why do you have to set a certain price that you would stop out at? Because to me, those, when you're setting a price you want to sell out at on the high or low end, that's trading, which is fine, but that's totally different than investing, in my opinion. So I'm not really a trader, right? I guess you say I kind of am, because I'm selling options in one account, and that's something small I'm doing, building up and just gaining experience with. But I'm only selling options, right? I'm not actively trading and buying calls or buying puts on like any stocks, right? And then with my long-term investments, I'm just continuing to accumulate shares, and also in some cases my traditional and Roth IRAs, just because of the tax benefits of them, right? Like Roth is a post-tax account, so there would be no taxes when I take them out. Obviously, I'm far from retirement. And traditional is like, all right, I want to be able to write off some taxes now for trying to save as much as I can. But kind of a complete rant there, and just a lot of different stuff. But just want to kind of let you guys know where I'm coming from, like what my quote-unquote story is, sort of thing. But yeah, I appreciate all of you being here very much. If you want to subscribe, that is greatly appreciated. Drop a like, and then follow me on X as well. That's where I'm writing stuff and posting updates on GameStop and just various other things, as the bio says. Stocks, economics, Bitcoin, hockey, and football. I think I have to add in here collector, because I'm really starting to get into like the whole trading card thing, right? So you got a whole bunch of sports cards right here. Got some old Pokemon cards I had graded. Like I said, I wound up buying some hockey cards at GameStop when I went there to pick up my cards the other day. So yeah, it's all a journey though, guys. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's really all a journey. And one other thing I'm just thinking about too, hey, look, nothing with Sultan, right? The Sultan of Squeeze or whatever he was saying, or I don't know. I mean, I think he's just trying to like get people to know who he is. I don't really know what he's trying to do, right? He hasn't spammed a meme coin yet, so I'm thankful of that, him and that Omar guy. But someone did point out to me yesterday that this particular individual is like the first digital bank in Pakistan called Tag, or the company's called Tag, that's like implementing the first digital bank. So that's interesting, right? But I think really what Ryan Cohen's doing and talking to all these people, right? Michael Saylor and whoever else, Carl Icahn, Trump, all these different people we've seen him take pictures with. I think he's really just trying to network, right? Because Chewy really got him into the scene, right, in terms of like big business and becoming relevant. And now GameStop is kind of like his next chapter. So I think he's really just trying to network in general. That's at least my viewpoint on it, but you're more than welcome to disagree. So let's catch up. No call. My last ad was 1024 right there before the run-up. Nice skiing. Happy for you. Weekly here. When selling weekly calls and using the premiums to add more shares over the last years, I've doubled my GME portfolio without adding any money. Nice, Robert. That's awesome. See, I'm happy for you. But for me, yeah, it's like I personally don't want to do that because I just feel like it can out of nowhere go up and I don't want my shares to get called upon. But at the same time, yeah, if you're selling way out of the money, you could just keep accumulating shares. But again, that's what it's all about, knowing thyself and your own risk and your own just awareness. Like, as long as you're doing something like that, right? I think the important thing is to specifically know what you're doing. Like, if this happens, okay, then I'm going to go about it that way. If that happens, I'm going to go about it in this way. And I think where people run into trouble is like they don't plan for like, they just assume it'll go really good. And if it doesn't, they don't have like a plan of like how they would go about things, right? So it's just about knowing like yourself and like how you want to go about things. I've been buying for 4 years now. Got my DCA down from 45 to high 20s. Takes a long time if you feel like a pearly. LOL. Exactly, dude. Exactly. I think my average cost for GameStop is like 25 to 30 range. I don't know exactly. It's hard because I have shares in traditional IRA. I have shares in a Roth IRA. I have shares in computer share. I have shares in a separate brokerage account. Right? So it's just so hard to know, to be honest. Cheers. Yes, sir. ADJ Core, what up, what up? Good to see you. Ken, hope you're doing well. Too long didn't read. Scotty, too long didn't read. Thanks for being here. Too long didn't read. GameStop might buy Bitcoin. They smashed the bottom line, 131 million of net income, about 29 cents of EPS, and positive free cash flow. And they're planning to buy Bitcoin, right? They amended the investment policy to be able to do so, but they haven't done it at this given point in time. Earnings already out. Yes, sir, John. You can check it out on GameStop Investor Relations page. You can roll your CSP if you don't want to be assigned shares. Rolling allows you to simultaneously close a position and open a new one week and month out. Always make sure you roll for credit so you don't need to roll the CSP. Do less. I appreciate that info. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been hesitant to roll because I thought it was weird. It was like multiple transactions in one, but I don't know why. Yeah, it's kind of one of those like not like forget you can do it, but I just kind of like put it out of my mind if something I want to do. But you're right. I would rather just like roll a put instead of ever having to be assigned shares. So I'm gonna keep that in mind. I appreciate it. Too long didn't read, shorts fuck. Hey Scott, that's what they're saying, man. That's what they're saying. But anyone betting against, I think anyone betting against GameStop at this point is just straight silly. Like, I understand if you don't want to bet on them, right? You don't want to believe in Ryan Cohen or what's going on here. That's fine. But if you want to bet against them, I think you're just straight silly, to be honest, at this point. May not, which is fine too. I got plenty of shares at this point. Let's see. I'm a Fortnite partner. LOL, nice skiing. Hey, that's funny. What are the chances of that, right? You like work with them or something like that? Or Team 51, hey, because I can. I know, a lot of people out there only own 51 shares, right? Me too, man. That's what they say. I know what you're talking about. I learned last year with the run to 60 plus that I should never sell cash covered calls on all the shares on a weekly basis. Now I sell weekly covered calls on half. Nice, Robert. Yeah, listen, again, like we're kind of saying before, all about knowing thyself. All about knowing thyself and how you really want to go about things. So yeah, let's see what the stock's doing. Anything, right? It's really minimal movement, right? I wonder, I know IV was relatively low, but what do they say? Time and pressure? It's like, again, I don't really care if the stock could go to the low 20s later this week. It could go to the 30s. I don't care. I honestly don't care. I can genuinely say that with like, without a care in the world, because it all just depends on like what's going on with the fundamentals, and I like the fundamentals, and I like the direction they're moving in, and the fact that people are still gonna, say, "Oh, they're not going anywhere, nothing's happening with this," I say, fine, and no problem with me. Like, think what you want. I'm just gonna keep holding my shares and enjoying the ride and covering the story to the best of my ability. Because again, I feel like there's not, true coverage of GameStop, and I'm not saying I'm the only one talking about it, but when you look at it, like, look, we have analyst estimates, and the analyst estimates are always silly. They overestimate on revenue and they way underestimate on net income. So, and look, two analysts. There's only been two analysts covering this stock since January 2021. They all dropped coverage after January 2021, and we're like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? Let's see here. Oh, this is Q4, but yeah, see, they're even, yeah, this was the actual earnings of 131 million on the bottom line, but yeah, some IT consultant. Okay, gotcha, nice. Yeah, I mean, you tell me. I think Fortnite's pretty good from what I read about, but that's pretty funny that I mentioned it. You have to be working on it, or not working on it, but like work with them. So, and also, speaking of Fortnite, right? Another situation where they have strong insider ownership. So I know the people running the company, the two brothers that founded it, still run it to this day, have a significant amount of shares. So they have a lot of vested interest in the company moving forwards, right? The Shee brothers, Kenneth and Michael. So insider ownership is always like really bullish to me, and I think it'd be really exciting if, when the next few days or so, right, if GameStop's floating around this price, is it impossible that, Larry Chang buys a few shares of Alan Adel or Ryan Cohen? No. Do I think they will? Not necessarily. I don't know. But Larry Chang's bought like small chunks here and there, and he hasn't bought in quite a while. So I would say if someone's going to buy, if there's an insider to buy in the near future, I think it would be Larry Chang, like over the next few weeks or so. Not to say that's definitely going to happen. But I think if I had to guess an insider that were to acquire shares in the near future, I would say it would be Larry Chang, because Ryan Cohen has a significant amount already. Alan Adel only has on a couple of occasions, and everyone else has pretty much just gotten the shares for their service at the company, right, or their share compensation. So they already do have the vested interest, but as always, it's encouraging to see any insider buy shares, and it's because of the famous Peter Lynch quote. Paraphrasing here, something along the lines of, there are a multitude of reasons why an insider sells, but there's only one reason they buy. They think the stock's going to go up, right? So yeah, but damn, this is crazy. This is truly crazy. Like, it's like I thought this would happen. Enjoy this video, guys. It's super goofy, super fun, and just let my mind run wild with it. Just kind of like a hype, not even like a hype video, just like a silly, like I don't even know what it is video type of thing. But crazy. Crazy how this saga, the journey it's taken us on, as individual investors. You'll notice I never say like, oh, the GME community, because I think everyone's an individual and has to make their own decisions. Then if you see community, people are like, oh, it's a group, you're trying to pump the stock or whatever. It's like, nope, I'm just talking about something that I know a lot of other people are interested in as well. So yeah, That's just how I go about it. They're growing fast, good integrated system, just have to work security flaws, but no different than anyone else. Sonic Wall is growing and also a good system, but behind Fortinet. Oh, good to know. Skiing, I appreciate that. I appreciate the info. But yeah, let me get a water break here. Not a Morant style water break. Not gonna pour any water on my face, but oh man. Time really flies by when I'm streaming. I can't believe it's already been almost 2 hours, but refreshing water. So I also had my old fashioned, to celebrate the earnings. Or I was as I was making it before I was starting the stream, I was like, I feel like this isn't worth it unless it goes well. But obviously it did. But also then I started yapping away and I was like, it's basically my ice cube at this point that just completely melted. So business priorities. Scan through here though, see if there's anything else maybe of significance. So that also, Control F is your friend when you're reading these reports. Okay, so just share repurchases. This is back from 2019. They still have the share repurchase authorization in place, so they could theoretically buy back 300 million worth of shares at any time. But I just don't see that being the case. They haven't done it at this point. Why would they do it anytime now, especially after issuing shares? See, they didn't buy back any shares in 22, 23, 24. Technically, oh yeah, sorry. The plan is for 300 million, but they could buy up to 101.3 without changing the repurchase authorization. But I don't see them doing that, right? Valuation of merchandise inventories. Merchandise inventories are carried at the lower of cost or market generally using the average cost method. Under the average cost method, as new product is received from vendors, its current cost is added to the existing cost. Right. Another example, right? If you're reading these reports, guys, and you're like, oh, I'm quite a little confused, I want to learn more. What I just do is, right, whether it's Grok or any AI, I say, explain in simple terms. Just paste it right in. GameStop keeps track of his inventory, like video games, consoles, beer, and systems, assigns value to it, lower cost, average cost, average cost. They take the cost of the new stuff and add it into the cost of what they already have, and then divide it into the total number of items. This gives them the updated average cost per item. Example, if they have 10 games at $20 each, buy 5 more at $22 each, the new total cost for the games is $310, so they average it at $20.67. So they give you a nice example. Pre-owned, if they give a $50 credit for used PlayStation, that's what it's worth on their books. Okay, so they don't inflate it, right? So if they give someone a credit for $50 for PlayStation and turn around and sell it for $100, the inventory isn't worth $50 on their books. It's worth $50, which I do think is good. You wouldn't want to put it for $100 because what if you don't actually wind up selling it for $100? You wind up selling it for a discounted amount, or it's a pro member who gets a discount because it's a pre-owned item, right? Things like that. Did my mic disconnect? No, we're good. Numbers part, 10%. Change, and they're obviously I'm since word again, man. Which set aside for unsellable stuff. They changed their net earnings by about 1.5 million. See if they bought 10% more of their inventory was than originally guessed. These profits would drop by 1.5 million. Bottom line, GameStop values inventory based on what it cost them, adjusted to make sure it's not overvalued if it won't sell. They average out costs as new stuff comes in, use trading credits for used items, and take a best guess at what it might sell, what might not sell, because being wrong costs them real money. Exactly. It just goes back to focusing on profitability being reported, right? So that's really where I love this AI stuff. AI I think is very cool, but very scary at the same time, to be honest with you. Where it's really cool is it's a great learning tool. But again, you can't blindly trust it. You can't be like, what is the best stock to buy and like stuff like that. Like you can ask it that for fun, but like you shouldn't like follow it. But for me, where it's really cool is like if I'm like, oh, I don't quite understand foreign currency risk, right? Like I just do explain in simple terms, make the explanation, or I can just put like explain in 3 sentences or less, right? If you just want like a really short summary, that's where I like it. You can just keep telling it like what you want, basically. Completely spilling water on myself. Oh man, guys, yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather. My throat is killing me, but we're gonna push forwards a little bit longer. See, not much price movement at all in the after hours here. It's crazy. It's not that crazy though at the same time. Like you just don't know with the stock. You just don't know. So public accounting firm. The filings we already saw. ATM. So we have the summary of their ATM, right? Which I already kind of had in my notes here, right? Because also people, oh, they haven't used their cash, right? But also keep in mind, most of the cash, 3.4 billion of it, was raised from May to September of 2024. So it's not even like they've had all that cash for that long. Yes, they've had like the 900 million or a billion for a while, but not to the rate at which they have now. So like merchandise inventories, that realizable value, generally used the average cost method, which we already read about a little bit. Inventory reserves as of February 1st are 24.5 million and 38.8 million respectively. Property equipment, nothing really significant there. See, obviously this is like a long report, so like you could go through this line by line if you really wanted to, but I think you have to kind of scan through and see. And you see, of all, like obviously revenue is still going down. It's just closing everything down in terms of like stores and just downsizing. But of all things, you know, I like to see collectibles holding up. And really, when you think about it, like Q4 was the first full quarter where they were selling PSA cards and like really having that partnership in place. So when I'm thinking ahead to 2025 as a whole, I'm really hoping the collectibles number for full year 2025 versus full year 2024 is higher rather than lower in terms of like being part of the sales mix. And I do wonder at which point. I was kind of hoping maybe it would be soon if there was like PSA as its own category, like PSA grading as a service, and or like PSA card sales. However, you know, I understand at this point it's not at a massive scale. And if you guys are interested, I did write a thread on it over here on my page on Twitter, X, whatever you're going to call it these days. So yeah, you can kind of get some analysis there if you're curious. And I'm going to keep writing on X, so feel free to follow me there. But yeah, I'll keep skimming through because I'm kind of burning out, to be honest with you guys, so I'm not going to go too much further. Okay, also see segment information. Actually, this I do want to see, right? So this is for the full year of 2024, not for the fourth quarter, right? Let's just double check here. Yeah, end of fiscal year ended. So you could see that when you go to the operating income here, right? The operating income, only if you're in the United States, is positive, right? Even Australia is negative, right? So we know they're pretty much winding down almost all of Europe at this point. Canada's winding down. It kind of begs the question, like, is Australia next? Does it just become a US-based company at a certain point? Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, right? We don't know for sure. But you can see the summary here. Unified segments based on a combination of geographic locations. Okay, and then segment results for Canada include retail and e-commerce sales operations in Canada. Segment results for Australia include retail and e-commerce operations in Australia and New Zealand. For Europe include France, Italy, and Germany. So we know they already wound down Italy and Germany. They're in the process of selling off France, which is Micromania. And also we know they're in the process of selling off Canada. So at this point, it's just going to be Australia and the US. And I would honestly guess that sooner than later, Australia is probably going to be wound down too, right? Just when you look at the actions they've taken, and that's just going to make profitability a little bit higher, you know, looking down the line. And again, I'm not saying like it's the best of things that they have to wind down stores, but at the end of the day, if they can't find a way to make it profitable, then I think they just have the approach of like, it is what it is, right? We're just business people doing business type of thing. Our chief operating decision makers and principal financial accounting officer, performing operating segments, assessments. If there's anything else. Well, let's see. I want to see where that they wrote about like where they see we exited our operations in Ireland, Switzerland, Australia during fourth quarter. We closed down store operations in Germany. We sold our Italian subsidiary, Italy. Recognized impairment expense and a loss of 0.5 million. Now it's planning to pursue sale of our French and Canadian operations, right? And then resulted in 509 stores. See, like this right here, right, is something I want to go ahead and add to my sheet. Because I feel like this is definitely something. Put like GameStop, 10K. Business / store count. Oop, it's because I put the count domestic plus worldwide. I could always change it later, but Just want to make it easy right now, right? And we'll go ahead and go in here. Whoop, not this one. Yeah, not that one either. Obsidian. Go to my folder. Downloads. Drop it right in. And then I could kind of sort through this later, right? But I know for a fact I'm going to want to reference this at some point or another. And stay tuned on Twitter, at TetronInvest, X, whatever you want to call it. I am going to write about this in some, like that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm like, this is definitely something to write about down the line in terms of like how they continue to downsize and like, yes, revenues keep going down, but net income is going to keep going up, right? So overall, I would say I'm definitely satisfied with the report. You know, maybe not everyone is out there, but for me, I'm happy, and I'm really curious to see how all the Bitcoin stuff plays out. That's going to be really, really interesting to me. So, see what's going on in the chat. Good earnings you should be excited about. It's been a while. You can also roll your covered calls for credit if you don't want the shares to be called away if it comes in the money that week. Good point. Trading card, pawn shop / investment firm now. Simon, yeah, thanks for being here. Hey, it seems the direction they're moving in, right? And you got that Berkshire type of look, right? When you go to their investor relations page, like it's so funny how it's like just so bare bones, but like I like it, like in a weird way, like I really do like it, right? I kind of like the old one too because it did have like that gaming theme and those cool pictures, and it was like fun, but at the same time, the bare bones is just kind of like, hey, we're GameStop, that's it. World's retail gaming trade-in destination for games, systems, cards, consoles, and accessories, right? So you could see cards are a big part of what they're doing. And I think PSA will become an increasingly large part of what they're doing. And I do wonder if they do anything more with PSA, right? Like what if maybe they like card stop, right? Like they open specific locations that are really small, only specifically selling cards and doing events there, processing, sending in cards to PSA to be great. I know the regular stores do that too, but maybe they open some specific locations primarily just doing that, and those are more profitable, right? Or they can take that route to kind of open more stores, right? That's just kind of a brainstorm, but I wonder if they do more of it, right? Or just in general, just let word of mouth spread, more people grade their cards through GameStop, or maybe it's a situation where they're not going to do any of that, and they're just going to kind of just keep rock and rolling at their own pace or market in some way, right? Like, I like the idea of guerrilla marketing, which basically is just like a unique way to like make it well known that they're grading cards, right, and facilitating PSA grading, which I think it's becoming relatively known, but just again for like new collectors myself, it's getting people like in the door. But yeah, honestly guys, I think I'm out of gas. I want to keep going. There's a whole bunch of you here, but my throat is killing me. I'm tired. I feel like I'm just completely rambling away at this point, but I really hope you enjoyed the stream. I really have a lot of fun covering the earnings. I'm really trying to get back into streaming. I always stream the earnings live. I literally take off work. People are like, why do you take off every once in a while on a random Tuesday work? I'm like, just getting stuff done. But it's to cover GameStop and just hang out with you guys and stream. And I honestly have a lot of fun with it. And I met so many people along the way on this journey that is holding GameStop, and continue to meet people and continue to just do my own thing, write about what's going on and share my opinions. And listen, you don't always have to agree. I think it's okay to agree to disagree sometimes. We need more of that in the world. Everything's crazy. Sometimes you got to just agree to disagree. But it's always fine to debate. And, there's always going to be people who are like, oh, GameStop's not going anywhere. But good advice I got one time, ironically enough, was be careful who you take advice from, right? So if someone's like, oh, GameStop's going bankrupt, they're not going anywhere, but like, they haven't even read any of the financial statements. Why does their opinion on that even matter to you, right? Or it's like someone who says like, oh, you got to do this to make more money to go get a raise at your job. But it's someone who's like never gone to their boss and asked for a raise. You know what I mean? Like, why would you listen to that person? So just be careful who you take advice from. But of course, to clarify, I'm not in the business of giving financial advice. I'm just here to share my personal thoughts and opinions and my own personal journey holding GameStop and just navigating the stock market, right? Because it's crazy, and navigating Twitter, right? It's the wild, wild west. So yeah, again, I appreciate you guys very much. If you want to follow me on X, I'll post whenever I'm streaming or a new video comes out, things like that. So you can follow me on X for updates. And then YouTube, putting videos out here and there, so stay tuned for that. And I kind of want to make a video talking about my experience grading cards at GameStop, so stay tuned for that, and then an earnings recap. But for now, I gotta rest my voice because I feel like it might be gone tomorrow, to be honest with you. But Appreciate you guys very much. Today was a great day. Yeah, I think next time, I feel like, I'll be honest, I feel like I would have been a little bit sharper in the beginning if I didn't have the old fashioned. I was enjoying myself a little bit, but I felt like I was like, da, 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 da. So I apologize. It also probably, I had one. It's not like Demi, like, whoa, you know what I mean? But because it's also like the fact that, like, that's also probably like I was saying in the beginning, I'm so warm and wanted to open this window, like, probably because I'm a little sick right now. And then also, like, my throat was killing me and I just could not sleep yesterday. I swear, every time before GameStop earnings, I'm not even like over like jittery at night, but I just can't sleep. But this time it was probably because I was like getting sick. I was just feeling like so fatigued last night. I don't really even know why. And then sure enough, today I wake up with like the worst sore throat. But I appreciate you guys very much. I'm gonna go through the chat one last time and then we'll wrap it up. You could roll butt shares, one pumping. I just bought 3 shares, one pumping. Hey, Raphael. Gotta stick around, man. Gotta stick around, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you for the stream, Tetron. Freshmaker, I appreciate you, man. It's great to see you. Thanks for popping in. It's all good. Time to eat anyways. Yes, sir. Skiing. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, time to eat, then go skiing, right? But appreciate you being here. Len Lambo? Or Len Wambo? I see what you did there. Stick around and find out, I guess, right? But damn, still alive. Whiskey gave you superpowers. Yeah, Ryan, that's what I was thinking. I was like, gotta get the germs out of the throat, right? I know that's not actually how it works, but I just figured I was like, all right, it'll help me just kind of chill out a little bit. I don't know. Not chill out. I don't even know. We're just figuring out as we go, just vibing, you know what I mean? But waiting to sign out of work in 4 minutes, bro. Cheers. Hey, happy you're done for the day, man. Have a great day. Thank you, Raphael. Hope you do as well. Do less. Cheers, Tetron. Cheers, do less. Hope you have a great night. Thank you. P. Longstock, thanks for being here. I appreciate you because I can. 51, yes, sir. Have a good night because I can. Ryan, much love, bro. Rest up. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Hope you have a fantastic night. Yo, I'm a Devils fan. You know that? Just on a hockey subject real quick. But my pick for the Cup this year, I just have a feeling the Avalanche are going to win it. Like, I don't know. Especially if they get, like, Landeskog back. Like, I don't know, man. Like, McKinnon's just a dog. And, like, getting Brock Nelson, like, I don't know, man. Just on the quick topic of hockey. But I'm going to wrap it up. So, yeah. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. But big hockey, guys. So I'm really excited for the playoffs. And I really want to, I was saying this a little bit before, I really want to start writing, like, mixing my hobbies together in terms of, like, business and economics, finance, and, like, football and hockey and, like, the salary cap, all that type of stuff. Like, I want to do some, like, writing on Twitter so you can kind of stay tuned for that of, like, kind of just analyzing, for example, how the NHL salary cap's going up. So it's kind of mixing, like, sports and business. So I feel like it's kind of like trying to bridge my worlds together, right? Oh, someone's printing something here. I was like, what the hell? But, yeah. As for the Cup is a wild one, dude. Whiskey talking. Maybe, Ryan. Maybe, man. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like that team, every time they get to playoffs, like, they're such a threat. But at the same time, I would really like to see Dallas win, I'll say. And, like, it looks like they're going to play each other in the first round. So, who knows, man? We'll see. Are you the kid from Hustle and Flow? No, I don't know what that is. Glad to hear you're a basketball fan. No, I'm like, yeah, honestly, I'll be honest. I don't really care about basketball that much. Like, I watch a little bit of March Madness, but, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I was like, I don't really know anything, right? And then I was with a few friends. I was like, whoa, let's root for the underdog, right? But, yeah, man, no, I know you're probably joking. But, yeah, who's the kid from Hustle and Flow? I want to pull it up on the side here. I got to see real quick. But no, I don't know what that is. Let's see. Do I look like him? I don't even see it, but I don't know. DJ Shelby? DJ Qualls? No, that's not me, man. But again, I appreciate all you being here very much. Thanks so much. Subscribe, like, follow me on X, all that good stuff. But I appreciate you. All right, for real. As I always do, I say, oh, yeah, we're going to wrap it up. And I go on and on and on. But, yeah, I got to rest now. So, appreciate you guys very much. I think it was a great earnings report for GameStop. I'm personally very satisfied. I'm excited to see what happens in going forwards. And, yeah, hope everyone out there has a good night. Take care.